Chapter 4102. My dear disciple, this is a good opportunity. Are you going to give up just like that? Shan Lingyun saw Zhuowen shaking his head and felt that it was unbelievable. Master, you know what my priority is right now, right? Zhuowen suddenly said. Shan Lingyun was stunned and then hesitated. My dear disciple, are you going to look for that lady called Moyan Wushang? Shan Lingyun naturally understood that Zhuowen had looked for her mainly to use her soul speech technique to calculate Moyan Wushang's exact location. If Shan Lingyun had not been suddenly captured by Huxley, Zhuowen might have been on the way to the Nuwa realm instead of following them to face Huxley's extermination. Zhuowen's eyes carried a trace of reminiscence as he nodded gently. My dear disciple, let me go to the Nuwa realm with you. After all, my soul speech technique is much more advanced than yours. I can definitely help a lot. Shan Lingyun said proudly. Zhuowen was simply too outstanding. However, Dan Lingyun still felt a sense of pride that she was able to frustrate Zhuo when in the aspect of the spirit language technique. Zhuowen was stunned and then shook his head. Master, if we are not going the same way, there is no need for you to follow me. Moreover, you are now the new leader of Huxley. The burden is heavy. Shan Lingyun sighed, rather dispiritedly, when she heard this. She really did not want to accept the position of the leader. However, due to the circumstances, she was the only suitable candidate. Oh, right. The leader left me a letter. He told us to open the letter after we leave. If we can't leave, we have to destroy it. Zhuowen suddenly thought of something. He flipped his right palm, and a beautifully bound letter appeared in his palm. Let's open it and take a look. Shan Lingyun took the letter and glanced at Zhuowen. Seeing the latter nod his head, she opened the letter. The surface of the letter was obviously sealed by some kind of power. Shan Lingyun did not open it at first. This is a blood seal. Only the blood essence of Huxley's people can open it. May reminded her. Shan Lingyun blushed. She had been in Huxley for too short a time, so she did not recognize this blood seal. Thus, under everyone's gaze, Shan Lingyun bit her finger and squeezed out a drop of blood essence and dripped it on the letter. A ray of golden light appeared on the surface of the letter, and then the seal on the surface gradually dissipated. Shan Lingyun hurriedly opened the envelope. There was a piece of golden paper inside, and the words on it were emitting a faint glow. The general content of the letter was that Zhuowen and Shan Lingyun were to lead the rest of their people to the sorcerer realm after the Hushu divine city was finally breached. The witch god world was located in the south of the 100 domains. Although it was also a low-level world, its foundation was much stronger than the Huxley world. There was no other reason. The Magus God realm had 2 experts at the universe tribulation realm. Ordinary, low-level realms really did not dare to provoke such a tough opponent. Lu Renjua asked his people to go to the witch god world because his sister, Lu Yingying, was the cultivation partner of the witch god clan's leader. Lu Yingying was also a member of Huxley. She was also Shan Lingyun's aunt. Thus, it was the best choice for the Huxley world to go to the witch god clan. Shan Lingyun did not hide the contents of the letter from everyone. She made it public. Everyone was relieved when they found out that they were going to the witch god clan where Lu Yingying was from. Although Lu Yingying was married, she was a native of the Huxley world. Thus, she would definitely take them in and help them revive Huxley in the future. My disciple, you will pass by the witch god world on your way to the Nuwa world. Why don't you follow us to the witch god world? After we settle down, I will go with you to find your little lover. Shan Lingyun said with a smile. Zhuowen rolled his eyes at Shan Lingyun. After thinking for a while, he nodded. Shan Lingyun was right. The witch god world was on the way to the Nuwa world. They were all in the south of the 100 domains. Thus, He did not need to part ways with the Huxley world so early. All right, I will go with you to the witch god world, Zhuowen said with a nod. The distance between the witch god world and the Huxley world is more than 10 domains. If we use the ancient teleportation formation, we will have to transfer at least 10 times. The cost is very expensive. Moreover, there are so many of us. The teleportation formation will not be very effective. That's a good choice, Sa Mei suddenly said. Zhuowen shrugged and gave everyone a helpless expression. He was the one who knew the least about the 100 outer territories among this group of people, so he naturally couldn't think of any good ideas. The only way is to ride the space-time beast to the witch god world. This is the most practical and convenient way, Shan Lingyun suddenly said. The space-time beast can only be tamed in mid-level domains and above. If we want to ride the space-time beast, we must go to mid-level domains and above, Tuo Sheng said in a low voice. I have calculated that the closest mid-level domain to us should be the light domain. At our current speed, we will only need 2 months to reach the light domain, Shan Lingyun said. Everyone nodded and agreed with Shan Lingyun's suggestion. They planned to go to the light domain first. After the itinerary was arranged, everyone dispersed and returned to their rooms to cultivate. Some of them gathered in groups of 3 to 5 to chat. Zhuowen said goodbye to Shan Lingyun, Sa Mei, and Tuo Sheng and returned to his cabin. After setting up the seal, Zhuowen entered the parallel world. In the parallel world, the scenery was beautiful and lush. In many areas, there were already living creatures such as birds and beasts. The only imperfection was that his parallel world had yet to give birth to intelligent creatures such as humans. However, Zhuowen knew that when his strength continued to increase, his parallel world would become stronger and more advanced. By then, he might be able to give birth to intelligent creatures such as humans. By then, these native humans would worship him as a god and develop their own civilization and system. At this moment, Zhuowen had the illusion that he was the supreme creator of the universe. Zhuowen shook his head and laughed at himself. He felt that he was indulging in fantasy. Although his big world was indeed very strange, it was only a primary world. Unless he could create a universe, perhaps only then could he really be considered a creator of the universe. After Zhuowen shook off the strange thoughts in his mind, he landed on the island in the middle of the parallel world. Chapter 4103. Zhuowen, what do you want to do? Inside the trapping array, 2 beautiful women were bound and unable to move. However, the moment the 2 women saw Zhuowen, they revealed a look of fear. These 2 were naturally Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing, who had been captured alive by Zhuowen in the Ghost King Ridge. Originally, Zhuowen had captured the 2 of them alive only to use them as hostages, so that the patriarchs of the 3 great clans would hesitate to attack. Unfortunately, the 3 great clans had taken action before he left the Ghost King Ridge and completely shed all pretense of cordiality. What happened next was, naturally, without suspense. After Zhuowen had successfully broken through the ancient star transformation, he had cleanly destroyed all the elite experts of the 3 great clans, including the patriarchs of the 3 great clans. Don't act recklessly. My master is the patriarch of gods. Lung Yenyu. If he finds out that you dared to imprison us, you'll be finished. If you still want to live, you'd better let us go. Lung Feifei shouted. Jian Wuqing's eyes were cold. Although she did not speak, a trace of fearless arrogance flashed in her eyes. Obviously, her thoughts were similar to Lung Feifei's. Ha! Are you so fearless because of your masters, Lung Yenyu and Xiao Zihui? Zhuowen mocked. What do you mean? I admit that you are indeed strong, but your cultivation has only broken through the ancient star transformation not long ago. However, The gap between you and our masters is still too big. You are no match for them. Let us go, and we can let bygones be bygones, and let you leave alive. Leave this place alive, Jian Wuqing said calmly. Ridiculous. You probably don't know yet. Yuri, Lung Yanyu, and Xiao Zihui have already been defeated by me. Don't you think it's ridiculous for you to threaten me with them? Zhuowen said indifferently. Impossible. You must be lying. Lung Feifei shook her head and sneered. Zhuowen did not continue to argue with Lung Feifei. Instead, he waved his sleeve and 3 figures landed at his feet in a sorry state. Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing turned towards the source of the voice, and their faces stiffened. This was because these 3 sorry figures were none other than the patriarchs of the 3 great clans, as well as their masters. Yuri, Xiao Zihui, and Lung Yanyu were covered in dust. All of their cultivation had been sealed in their bodies by Zhuowen. At this moment, they were like ordinary people, unable to use any strength. The 3 of them naturally saw Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing looking at them in disbelief. They could not help but lower their heads as shame flashed in their eyes. Now, do you still think I'm lying? Zhuowen asked indifferently. Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing fell silent. Their eyes were still filled with shock and disbelief. This Zhuowen actually defeated the patriarchs of the 3 great clans. How did he do it? Zhuowen, you're too presumptuous. Aren't you afraid that our realm guardian will take revenge? Huxley has been completely defeated. This is the trend. You're not even a member of the Hushu clan, so why do you have to protect Huxley? Yuri said with a sense of superiority in his eyes. This was because he still had a final trump card, which was the Realm Guardian. As long as their Realm Guardian was still around, no matter how strong Zhuowen was, he would not be able to do anything to their Realm Guardian. This was also the advantage they had in negotiating with Zhuowen. Patriarch Yu is right. Zhuowen, as long as you let us go and apologize, we won't pursue any responsibility against you. Lung Yanyu echoed. Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing, who had originally fallen silent, had their eyes lit up again. That's right, they still have the domain protector. That's what they really rely on. Bang! Suddenly, Yuri groaned and fell to the ground. Lung Feifei and the others realized that Zhuowen had unknowingly raised his foot and ruthlessly stepped on Yuri's head. The unlucky Yuri's face came into extremely intimate contact with the ground. His entire face was about to plunge into the ground. Zhuowen, Yuri was furious and struggled with all his might. Unfortunately, his cultivation had been sealed, so struggling was futile. Realm Guardian? I'm sorry, but your Jinshui clan's Realm Guardian, Saiku Hongfei, has already been defeated by me. Zhuowen said indifferently. Yuri was taken aback for a moment before bursting into laughter. Zhuowen, you really dare to say that? Lord Saiku is an expert of the great Qiankuan tribulation. Who do you think you are? You even said that you defeated him. I think you saw him from afar and immediately ran away in panic, because you ran away like a stray dog. Zhuowen sneered. With a flip of his right hand, he took out a ball of light. His right hand reached into the ball of light and suddenly squeezed. A shrill scream rang out from the ball of light. Saiku Hongfei's spirit, who had been trembling in the ruins of the great Qiankuan world, was pulled out. Saiku Hongfei, your descendant said that I would immediately run away like a stray dog when I saw you. I wonder if you agree with this view or not. Zhuowen asked indifferently. Saiku Hongfei's spirit trembled. He looked at Zhuowen with fear and hatred, but did not dare to meet Zhuowen's eyes. The young man in front of him was simply too terrifying. Moreover, his spirit was now in the hands of this boy. If the latter wanted to destroy him, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. How could that be? Lord Zhua, you are a true genius. Even I have to take a detour. When I see you, how could I let you run away? Saika Hongfei's face was pale. He revealed a fawning smile and said softly. At the same time, the moment Saika Hongfei's spirit was forcibly pulled out by Zhuowen, Yuri, and the others involuntarily looked at the spirit. Then their gazes instantly froze. Immediately after, they sucked in a deep breath of cold air. Old ancestor? Yuri's face was full of disbelief. He trembled as he called out tentatively, Senior Saiku? Xiao Zihui, Lung Yanyu, and the others were also dumbfounded. They even rubbed their eyes, suspecting that there was something wrong with their eyes. But when they realized that what they saw was not an illusion, they only felt a sense of suffocation engulf their bodies. An expert like Saika Hongfei could actually smile like a weakling, and this smile was directed at Zhuowen, whom they did not care much about. They finally discovered that Saiku Hongfei's physical body no longer existed. What appeared before them was a dim and lightless spirit. They were not fools. They immediately realized that Saiku Hongfei had indeed been defeated by Zhuowen, and his spirit had not been able to escape and had been captured by Zhuowen. Chapter 4104. After a round of scolding, Saiku Hongfei finally put on a fawning smile and said to Zhuowen, Lord Zhuowen, ignorance is blameless. You don't have to be so calculative with him. Yuri's face alternated between green and white, and he fell completely silent. At this moment, his heart was filled with despair, and he was so scared that he could barely stand. What kind of monster was this Zhuowen? Even the guardian of the Goldwater realm had been defeated by him, and his life was in danger at any moment. Zhuowen coldly glanced at Saiku Hongfei. He knew very well what the latter was planning. Now, do you still think I'm talking big? Zhuowen's gaze fell on Yuri, and he grinned. Seeing the smile on Zhuowen's face, Yuri felt a chill in his heart. He didn't dare to meet Zhuowen's gaze, and he didn't say a word. Zhuowen's smile became even colder. He grabbed Yuri's head and lifted him up. What are you doing? Yuri's expression changed drastically, and he struggled to speak. Zhuowen's expression was cold, and he didn't answer Yuri's question. A powerful divine power poured out of his palm and poured into Yuri's head. Splat! Yuri's face twitched, and he struggled with all his might like a living fish on a dry riverbed. But all of this was useless. Before long, Yuri was bleeding from all of his orifices, and his divine soul had been completely annihilated by Zhuowen's power. Bang! Zhuowen casually tossed Yuri's corpse to the side. Xiao Zihui, Lung Yanyu, and the others felt a chill run down their spines, and involuntarily knelt in front of Zhuowen. Lord Zhua, I beg you to let us live. We had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai just now. Please be magnanimous and forgive us this time. At this moment, Xiao Zihui, Lung Yanyu, and the others had already abandoned their dignity. They had cultivated for countless years to achieve what they had today. They did not want to die like this, so they simply knelt down and begged Zhuowen for mercy. But they were met with a long silence. Zhuowen looked down at Xiao Zihui and the others. The reason why he killed Yuri was to make an example of him. What he did was obviously very effective. Xiao Zihui, Lung Yanyu, and the others who were originally unconvinced finally felt fear. And when a person was afraid, it was also when they were most vulnerable. If you want to live, then hand over your spiritual imprints. If you don't, I don't mind letting you meet Yuri in the underworld. Zhuowen said calmly. Xiao Zihui, Lung Yanyu, and the others hesitated for a moment, then decisively handed over their spiritual imprints. When Zhuowen's gaze fell on Saika Hongfei, who was in his spiritual imprint state, the latter only felt his scalp go numb. He sighed in his heart and also handed over his spiritual imprint. He knew very well that if he dared to be stubborn, with Zhuowen's means just now, he would kill him. After putting away Saika Hongfei and the other's spiritual imprints, Zhuowen nodded with satisfaction and said with a faint smile, "You are very sensible. As a reward, I plan to let you go." "What?" Saiku Hongfei, Xiao Zihui, and the others were stunned. They suspected that there was something wrong with their ears. Zhuowen actually let them go after taking away their spiritual imprints. What did this mean? "Master Zhua, you're not joking with us, are you?" Lan Yenyu asked doubtfully. "Do I look like I'm joking?" Zhuowen said coldly. Lan Yenyu quickly shut up and did not dare to say anything more. "Don't worry, I'm not joking. Zhuowen, always do what I say. However, after I let you go, I have a request," Zhuowen said calmly. Saika Hongfei and the others looked at each other. They did not have the slightest joy of being released. Instead, they were filled with uneasiness. "After you go back, you are not allowed to reveal anything about me. You must first swear to the heavenly Tao," Zhuowen said seriously. Although Saiku Hongfei did not know what Zhuowen's purpose was, he knew that he could only do as he said. After they swore to the heavenly Tao, he waved his right hand and brought the 5 of them out of the macro world and onto the deck of the divine ship. At this moment, the deck of the divine ship was basically empty except for the people who were steering it. Most of the people had entered their cabins to cultivate in seclusion. Zhuowen took out 4 array discs and handed them to Xiao Zihui, Lung Yenyu, Lung Feifei, and Jian Wuqing. "These are the teleportation array discs. After you activate them, these array discs will transport you to the Hushu realm. You can go now," Zhuowen said expressionlessly. Xiao Zihui and the others were completely dumbfounded. They really did not understand what Zhuowen was planning. Although they were confused, since Zhuowen had let them go, they naturally would not miss this opportunity. After thanking Zhuowen, the 4 of them activated the array discs and turned into 4 streaks of light, disappearing from the deck. After the 4 of them left, Zhuowen's gaze fell on the uneasy Saiku Hongfei. "Saiku Hongfei, take these 4 divine soul marks." With a wave of his sleeve, Zhuowen took out the divine soul marks of Xiao Zihui and the others and handed them to Saiku Hongfei. "This, Master, what are you?" Saiku Hongfei looked at the 4 divine soul marks in his hand, his expression full of doubt and uneasiness. Saiku Hongfei, a wise man submits to circumstances. "I leave the life and death of Xiao Zihui and the others to you. However, I have an important task for you. If you can complete this task, I will set you free," Zhuowen said with a faint smile. "Are you serious?" Saiku Hongfei asked hurriedly, his body trembling with excitement. "Of course." Saiku Hongfei calmed down, looked at Zhuowen, and asked, "Master, what do you want me to do?" "After you return to the Goldwater realm, help me monitor the Divine Eye realm and the Purple Illusion realm. You have to report any situation to me. When your injuries are completely healed, I need your strength to help me destroy Xu Yangqi, Ling Xinghai, and the Ghost King," Zhuowen said. Saiku Hongfei's pupils shrank. He did not expect Zhuowen to be so ambitious. He actually wanted to destroy Xu Yangqi and Ling Xinghai. Whether it was Xu Yangqi or Ling Xinghai, their cultivations were not weaker than his. Although Zhuowen had defeated him before, that was when he was extremely weak, and he had coincidentally encountered Zhuowen's terrifying tribulation. In the end, he was defeated by Zhuowen. The Ghost King's true strength was definitely not weaker than Lu Yuanba's. In fact, he was even stronger. It was extremely difficult to destroy such an expert. What? You're not willing? Zhuowen glanced at the hesitant Saiku Hongfei and said coldly. Saiku Hongfei sighed softly in his heart. He knew that he had no choice but to stand on Zhuowen's side. I'll leave Xiao Zihui and the others to you. After I return to the Hushu realm, the 4 of them must cooperate with us. No matter what method you use, you must make them betray their clans. If you can't do this well, wait for me to return. When I return, your head will fall to the ground. Zhuowen's eyes burst with cold killing intent as he looked coldly at Saiku Hongfei. Chapter 4105. Recover your cultivation as soon as you return. If you can't help me after I return to the Hushu realm, I think you know better than me what will happen to you. Zhuowen took out a formation disc and tossed it to Saiku Hongfei before he spoke with a cold expression. Saiku Hongfei put away the formation disc. His heart trembled, and he nodded and bowed. Go! Zhuowen waved his hand. After receiving Zhuowen's order, Saiku Hongfei carefully took out the teleportation formation disc, turned into a white light, and disappeared from the deck. Zhuowen came to the edge of the deck and looked in the direction of the Hushu realm. In Huxley, the patriarchs fought to the death like moths to a flame. He also saw the expressions of the 3 great protectors and the 9 kings who gave up their lives for the Hushu divine city. He also saw Lu Rinjue's words before he died. At this moment, they appeared in his mind, vivid in his mind. He wasn't a member of Huxley's clan, and he didn't even have much of a relationship with Huxley. But when he thought of these tragic scenes in his mind, he was deeply moved. These people who were willing to give up for their clansmen and beliefs were worthy of his respect. When his cultivation reached the level where he could truly kill a tribulation of universe expert, he would return to the Hushu realm and help Huxley rebuild their home. When that time came, he would go to the Pangu realm and seek justice for the countless members of the Pangu clan. Although he had no obligation to do so, he was willing to do what he could for these honorable people. In the following period of time, Zhuowen focused on cultivating in his cabin, consolidating his newly advanced ancient star transformation realm cultivation. A month later, Zhuowen abruptly opened his eyes, and his gaze was filled with joy. With a thought, he turned into a stream of light and entered the great world. In the sky above the island at the center of the great world, the fusion of the violet gold divine sword and the demon will had finally entered the final stage. At this moment, both the violet gold divine sword and the demon wheel had melted into liquid. The violet gold divine sword had turned into a purple gold liquid, while the demon wheel had turned into a pitch black liquid. The 2 liquids floated in the air, mixing and merging with each other. At this moment, Xiao He, the blood immortal sword, and the sacrificial death sword's weapon spirits were looking at the 2 liquids with serious expressions. Xiao He and the other 2 were constantly performing extremely complicated hand seals. One after another, runes that Zhuowen could not understand surged out from their hand seals and landed on the surface of the 2 liquids. As these strange runes landed on the liquid, the fusion speed of the 2 liquids that were originally fusing immediately sped up. Time slowly passed, approximately 2 hours later. Under the support of these strange symbols, the purple gold liquid and the black-colored liquid finally completely merged together. In midair, the fused liquid was a strange mixture of purple, black, and gold that constantly alternated with each other. Xiao He, who had a grave expression on her face, finally relaxed a little. Naturally, he also noticed Zhuowen, who was observing them from a short distance away. Xiao He chuckled and said, "Boy, fortunately, I did not disappoint you. The 2 types of astral weapons have finally completely merged together. Now, this is the original liquid of the astral weapon. In a few days, I will be able to forge this new astral weapon fragment. Speaking of which, what kind of weapon do you plan to forge this new astral weapon into? Is it still a divine sword? The corners of Zhuo Wen's mouth revealed a hint of a smile, and he nodded and said, "It's still in the style of a divine sword. Also, Xiao He, are you sure you want to become the weapon spirit of this astral weapon?" Zhuo Wen's expression suddenly became serious. He knew too little about the astral weapon fragment. Even the raw materials used to forge this astral weapon were extremely mysterious. He could not recognize them at all. He thought that Xiao Hei's sudden decision to become the weapon spirit of the astral weapon fragment was filled with too many unknowns. Xiao Hei grinned and said, "Don't worry. Have you forgotten that when you obtained the first astral weapon fragment, I had already started to study this thing? Although the material of the astral weapon fragment is extremely mysterious, and even I can't understand it, after such a long time of research, it's not like I didn't gain anything at all. In addition, your primordial stone can suppress the power of the astral weapon. The astral weapon will merge into one. It can be said that no matter how low the level of the astral weapon in your hands is, its potential is endless. And as a weapon cultivator, this endless possibility is the most suitable material for me." Although Zhuo was still a little worried, what Xiao Hei said was indeed the truth. As a weapon cultivator, Xiao Hei's talent was actually not that great, and he did not have Zhuowen's luck. If there were no accidents, Xiao Hei's highest achievement would only be the heaven-breaking realm. If he wanted to continue to break through and enter the great carefree realm, it would probably be very difficult. But the astral weapon had opened another door for him, and this door was endless potential. If Xiao Hei could succeed, then his achievements would be very astonishing. "Xiao Hei, be careful. I'll be here to guard you. If there's an accident, I'll take action immediately," Zhuo said with a solemn expression. Xiao Hei nodded, and there was gentleness in the depths of his eyes. "Let's not talk for now. This Dragon Lord is going to refine this astral weapon first. Before I enter, I must forge the divine sword." As Xiao Hei spoke, he swept back to the ball of liquid and began to refine the astral weapon. That ball of liquid was rebellious, and it emitted extremely terrifying power ripples that spread in all directions. Fortunately, Zhuo had given Xiao Hei the Great Word Stone and Great Word Stone to protect Xiao Hei and the others. Therefore, they were not too affected by this powerful energy ripple. As time passed, the astral weapon source liquid gradually took shape under the efforts of Xiao Hei and the others, and it began to take the shape of a sword embryo. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. After another month, the sword embryo was finally refined into an incomparably sharp divine sword. The divine sword was pitch black, and on the pitch black sword body, there was a purple gold light that wandered back and forth on the surface of the divine sword like water ripples. It looked full of mystery and noble elegance. What surprised Zhuo even more was that the pressure emitted by this sword was extremely powerful. He could clearly feel that the moment this sword was forged, the whole world seemed to shake, and then countless creatures knelt on the ground one after another, crying in fear and grief. Sure enough, after fusing with the evil ghost devil wheel, the divine sword really reached the level of a 7th rank astral weapon. Zhuo said to himself in surprise. Roar. Chapter 4106. Xiao Hei, he's planning to take over the sword. Zhuo looked at Xiao Hei, who had revealed his true form, and his gaze suddenly became much more serious. Now was the most critical moment. If Xiao Hei could successfully take over and become the sword spirit of the sword, then the power of the sword would increase. In that case, the sword's power would rise to a whole new level, and it would also become more spiritual. It would no longer be like before, where it was like an inanimate object. Whoosh! The black dragon roared and fell from the sky, completely entering the black sword. Then Zhuowen saw that the surface of the black sword, which had been motionless before, suddenly surged with intense purple, black, and gold light. The intense light seemed to be able to pierce through the entire sky. The entire macro world was enveloped by the three-colored light, and it was everywhere. At the same time, the black divine sword began to go berserk, erupting with extremely terrifying energy and rampaging in the macro world. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. Fortunately, he was already prepared. He took out several array discs. Instantly, the area within a radius of tens of thousands of miles was enveloped by powerful array patterns, forming a terrifying cage. The black sword was extremely terrifying. It swept to the edge of the array and suddenly slashed out. Terrifying sword light swept out like a tsunami, instantly crushing many array patterns. Zhuowen's gaze was serious, but he did not panic. Instead, he moved all 10 of his fingers and began to set up new array patterns to strengthen the defensive power of the array. Wherever the black sword destroyed, Zhuowen quickly repaired it. He was barely able to trap the black sword, preventing it from rushing out and destroying the rest of the macro world. Roar! 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 At the same time, waves of dragon roars came from the black sword. Obviously, it would not be easy for Xiaohe to take over the black sword completely. Little blood, little still, quickly come and help me. Not long after, Xiaohe's anxious voice came from the black sword. Then, the weapon spirits of the blood fairy sword and the sacrificial death sword, who were watching the battle, rushed into the array without hesitation and entered the black sword. Boom! Boom! Black sword struggled even more intensely, but Zhuowen could feel that black sword's aura was gradually weakening. As time passed, black sword's struggles became much weaker, like a sickly and withered seedling. Clang! Not long after, the black sword's aura became faintly discernible, and it fell to the ground with a crisp sound. Zhuowen silently looked at black sword, but he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He knew that Xiaohe and the others had succeeded. Sure enough, not long after, the originally weak black sword's aura suddenly changed, rising steadily. An intense dragon roar continuously resounded from the black sword, piercing through the clouds. At the same time, on the surface of the black sword that was as smooth as a mirror, the pattern of a black dragon slowly appeared. It looked very lifelike. Whoosh! The black sword soared into the sky and floated in front of Zhuowen. Its aura was no longer overbearing, but rather much more intimate. Kid, what do you think? I was right, wasn't I? I can become the weapon spirit of this astral weapon. Xiaohe flew out of black sword, sat on the sword hilt, and looked at Zhuowen proudly. The weapon spirits of the blood fairy sword and the sacrificial death sword were like standard underlings standing on both sides of Xiaohe without blinking. Zhuowen gave Xiaohe a thumbs up. This time, Xiaohe had indeed contributed the most to the successful fusion of the two astral weapons. It seems that after becoming the weapon spirit of this astral weapon, you will gain a lot of benefits. Zhuowen sized up Xiaohe. He keenly noticed that Xiaohe's aura had become stronger than before, and he was probably not far from a breakthrough. Hee, the benefits of an astral weapon are indeed great. I just took control of it, and its surging energy rushed into my body. I'm afraid that I will soon break through the demonic transformation. Xiaohe was very happy. Zhuowen nodded. With the help of the astral weapon, Zhuowen believed that Xiaohe would break through again in a short period of time, reaching the ancient star transformation, and even reaching the threshold of the great calamity of heaven and earth. After all, the weapon that Xiaohe took control of was a rank 7 astral weapon, and its power was extraordinary. Oh, right, because Little Blood Fairy and Little G refined this sword with me. They seem to have become part of the weapon spirit of this sword. Xiao He suddenly said, looking a little embarrassed. Zhuo Wen looked at the blood immortal sword and the sacrifice of death sword, who were standing respectfully behind Blackie. Sensing Zhuo Wen's gaze, the two weapon spirits smiled embarrassedly and hurriedly nodded and bowed. It's good to have their help. You can quickly master this sword. Zhuo Wen nodded and did not say anything. The weapon spirits of the blood fairy sword and the death sacrifice sword let out a sigh of relief. Xiao He nodded and continued, "Oh, right, boy. The power of this sword should be above the evil ghost demonic wheel. Why don't you give it a name? After all, this will be your exclusive astral weapon in the future." Zhuo Wen was stunned. Speaking of which, ever since he'd obtained the astral weapon and discovered the fusion function of the astral weapon from the primordial stone, even though he'd fused it several times, he seemed to have never given the astral weapon a name. Zhuo Wen thought for a while and said with a smile, "Then let's call it the Taiyu Sacred Sword." Hearing this, Xiao He could not help but be a little stunned. Then he laughed and said, "That's a good name. The Taiyu Sacred Sword suits my name very well. Okay, I'll go first. You two slowly familiarize yourselves with this sword. When you have completely mastered it, let me know." Zhuo Wen said with a smile. "Got it," Xiao He said casually, looking at Zhuo Wen's back. A trace of gentleness and gratitude flashed in his eyes. This boy really came up with this name. "Boss, you are the Taiyu Sacred Dragon, and this sword is called the Taiyu Sacred Sword. It suits you so well." Yes, this sword was specially made for you, boss. In the future, you will be the leader of the weapon cultivators. As your followers, we feel very proud." The weapon spirits of the blood fairy sword and the death sacrifice sword gathered in front of Xiao He and kept flattering him. "Go, go, go! Now that the two of you are part of the Taiyu Sacred Sword's weapon spirits, follow me in the future, and you will naturally live a good life. As long as I have meat to eat, I will definitely give you soup." Xiao He smiled proudly and re-entered the Taiyu Sacred Sword, surrounded by the two weapon spirits. After all, this sword was a fragment of a level 7 astral weapon, and its power could not be underestimated. If they wanted to master this sword, they had to cultivate and become stronger as soon as possible. Otherwise, when the time came, they, as weapon spirits, could not control this sword. Wouldn't they become decorations? After Zhuo Wen left the great world, there was a knock on the cabin door. When he opened the door, he found Sa Mei standing outside. "Senior Zhuo, we are almost at the Radiant Realm. The Patriarch asked me to call you up," Sa Mei said. Chapter 4107. On the deck of the ship, Huxley's people had already gathered together. In front of this group of people, Shan Lingyun's petite figure formed a strong contrast. Although Shan Lingyun was a little girl, she had a strong aura. As she stood there, Huxley's people stood respectfully and did not dare to say a word. When Zhuo Wen came to the deck, he saw this strange scene. The moment the little girl saw Zhuo Wen, all the restraint on her face disappeared. She revealed an extremely bright smile. Immediately after, Zhuo Wen helplessly realized that Shan Lingyun was walking over quickly. She jumped up and rode on Zhuo Wen's shoulder. "Disciple, you are really too much. In this 1 month, you have been in seclusion. I went to look for you a few times, but you did not respond. Are you that busy?" Shan Lingyun's cheeks were puffed up. She seemed to be angry. Zhuo Wen scratched his head and could only explain casually. Only then did this little girl calm down. On the other hand, the Huxley's people were not surprised by this scene. They all cupped their hands and bowed to Zhuo Wen. Zhuo Wen nodded slightly. He carried Shan Lingyun and came to the bow of the ship. "Junior Zhuo, the border of the light boundary is right in front. After all, the light boundary is a middle-level boundary. It is not like a low-level boundary. Its security is much tighter. At the border, there are powerful cultivator armies stationed there. Tuo Sheng came to Zhuowen's side and pointed to the front as he said in a low voice. Zhuowen looked in the direction that Tuo Sheng was pointing at. There, he saw an extremely vast territory. Moreover, there was not a single place in this territory that was dark. Almost every place was filled with intense light. The light boundary is inhabited by the light tribe. They are born with the ability to dispel darkness. Moreover, the light boundary is rich in fluorite. Therefore, almost all the buildings in the light boundary are built with fluorite. Tuo Sheng looked at Zhuowen with a look of surprise. He quickly explained with a surprised look on his face. All the buildings are built with fluorite. How rich! Zhuowen clicked his tongue in wonder. He had been in the 100 outer domains for so long, so he naturally knew how expensive fluorite was. In many low-level places, an entire tribe's method of dispelling the darkness was always to use a stone statue made of fluorite. Moreover, these stone statues were usually passed down from generation to generation and were regarded as the treasures of the clan. Even some of the major forces were not so extravagant that almost every building was built with fluorite. However, the light domain was excessively extravagant. All the buildings in the entire domain were made of fluorite. This was indeed a little extravagant. Of course, this was also because the radiant domain had a huge fluorite vein. We're here. As Tuo Sheng spoke, the divine ship slowly descended. What appeared in front of them was a huge city wall that was emitting light. At this moment, the cultivator army within the city walls also discovered Zhuowen's group of uninvited guests. Someone immediately led a group of cultivators to stop in front of the divine ship. Who are you? The leader of the cultivator army was a middle-aged man. His body was sturdy, and his aura was full. There were fiend god shadows surging around him. He was an expert in the fiend god transformation realm. Zhuowen was shocked because an expert in the fiend god transformation realm was only the leader of a small team. If this were the Hushu domain, such an expert would have already taken up an important position in the core region of the Hushu domain. There was no way he would just be a small team leader at the border. It seems that a mid-level domain's foundation is much deeper than a low-level domain's. Zhuowen sighed inwardly, then led the group down the divine ship. The middle-aged man stared intently at Zhuowen. He discovered that the latter's aura was extremely vigorous, far stronger than his own. He knew that the youth in front of him was definitely an ancient star transformation realm expert. Therefore, his expression became rather serious, and he was no longer as casual as before. Zhuowen cupped his hands at the middle-aged man and said with a smile, "Brother, we are from the Hushu domain and have specially come to the light domain to seek refuge. I hope that you can make an exception for us." As he spoke, Zhuowen took out a heaven-breaking level 7 divine medicine and secretly handed it to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's brows twitched slightly, and he kept the divine medicine without a trace. There was a trace of a smile on his face. "So you're here to seek refuge. I've heard that the Hushu domain is not very peaceful, but if you want to enter the light domain, you have to pay a border crossing fee, and it's calculated by the number of people." The middle-aged man's tone was gentle. Zhuowen looked at Tuo Sheng beside him. Seeing the latter nod, he knew that the middle-aged man was not trying to extort him. "How many crystals?" Zhuowen asked. 3 million crystals per person. The middle-aged man said indifferently, "What? I remember that the border crossing fee to the light domain is only 1 million crystals. Why is it 3 million crystals now?" Tuo Sheng frowned slightly. The middle-aged man was obviously very displeased with Tuo Sheng's tone. He snorted coldly and said, "That was the price in the past. Recently, the Light Clan has issued a new decree, which clearly states that the border crossing fee has been raised to 3 million crystals. After all, there are many refugees from the Hushu domain, and it's not a big deal for you. If you think it's too expensive, please leave." The middle-aged man said impatiently. Zhuowen frowned slightly. It seemed that the Light Domain was taking the opportunity to earn money from the refugees of the Hushu domain. This temporary increase in the border crossing fee was obviously targeted at the cultivators who had fled from the Hushu domain. "Okay, we'll calculate according to this price." Zhuowen waved his sleeve, took out a large pile of chaos crystals, and handed them to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man checked and found that there was no mistake. He put away the crystals and said indifferently, "You can go in." Zhuowen nodded and led everyone back to the divine ship, while the middle-aged man opened the restriction at the border. Whoosh! The divine ship turned into a stream of light and rushed into the Light Domain. In the Light Domain, only the most prosperous city, the Light Divine City, has the existence of the space-time beast. "We need to go to the Light Domain," Tuo Sheng suggested in a low voice. Hearing this, everyone nodded in agreement. Among them, only Tuo Sheng had been to the Light Domain before. Therefore, Tuo Sheng was the most familiar with the Light Domain among them. Under Tuo Sheng's lead, the divine ship docked at the nearest city. Then, through the teleportation formation in the city, they were directly transmitted to the Light Divine City. Chapter 4108. This is the outer city of the Light Divine City. It is specially built for the living beings and practitioners of the Light region to do business and live here. Tuo Sheng explained to Zhuowen. Through Tuo Sheng's introduction, Zhuowen knew that the main part of the Light Divine City was the inner city. The inner city was much bigger than the outer city. It was also very mysterious and was hidden in a secret space. Other than the Light region, no one else knew where the inner city of the Light Divine City was. Both sides of the streets were filled with shops and stalls. There were all kinds of items on display, such as divine weapons, divine medicine, divine elixirs, and all kinds of good materials. Shan Lingyun, on the other hand, was very interested. She looked around, and her big, watery eyes were full of twinkling stars. Soon, she realized that she had lost her composure. She curled her lips and became serious again. She said to Tuo Sheng, "Tuo Sheng, bring us to the place where the space-time beast is kept." Tuo Sheng nodded and led the group through a few streets. Their group attracted a lot of attention as they walked on the street. Many people turned to look at them. Tuo Sheng stopped in front of a huge temple in the west of the city and said in a deep voice, "This is the space-time temple. It's where the space-time beasts are kept. Many people ride the space-time beasts from here." After some negotiation, the person in charge of the space-time temple came out and welcomed Zhuowen and the group in. "Esteemed guests, may I know which domain you plan to visit this time?" The person in charge was a beautiful woman with a hot body. She was wearing a thin, tight cheongsam that showed off her figure. There was a hint of charm on her pretty face as she sat on the wooden chair and looked at Zhuowen charmingly. Shan Lingyun curled her lips and scolded her in her heart. She said, "We are going to the magical region. What is the price?" The beautiful woman looked at the petite Shan Lingyun in astonishment. She didn't expect this little girl to speak first. Did that mean that this little lowly was the leader of this group of people? The beautiful woman quickly regained her composure. She smiled tenderly and said, "Recently, it's the peak season for space-time beast rides. The price is twice as high as usual. It's about 200,000 spar per person. I see that there are more than 300 of you here. I can give you a discount. Even if there are 300 of you, it will be 60 million crystal stones in total." Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This beautiful woman was really asking for an exorbitant price. They knew from Tuosheng that the normal price of a space-time beast was only 100,000 crystal stones. Now, she had actually doubled the price. Manager, isn't your price a bit too high? It's actually doubled. Tuosheng frowned. The beautiful woman spread out her hands and said helplessly, "This is the market price. If you think it's too expensive, you can look elsewhere." Zhuowen frowned. He knew from Tuosheng that in the light region, only the space-time temple had space-time divine beasts. If they were to search elsewhere, wouldn't they have to go to other mid-level domains to search? Then this is the price. Zhuowen said indifferently. He understood that the current situation was different from the past. The light region was taking advantage of others' weakness, and it was monopolized. They had no choice but to accept this price. The beautiful woman smiled sweetly and said, "Little brother is really a straightforward person." Next, after Zhuowen paid the 60 million crystal stones, the beautiful woman informed them that the space-time divine beasts heading to the Magus God domain would set off in 3 days. She asked them to come back to the space-time temple 3 days later. Zhuowen and the others temporarily stayed in the outer city of the light divine city. The expenses during this period of time are a bit terrifying. Zhuowen looked at the piles of crystal stones in the outside world that were being rapidly consumed and couldn't help but reveal a wry smile. Fortunately, most of the resources in Saiku Hongfei's universe world had been obtained by him, so his wealth was still relatively rich. Otherwise, he might have had to pay for the expenses in the light region. 3 days later, Zhuowen and the others arrived at the space-time temple as promised. The beautiful woman who received them was still the same as 3 days ago. She smiled and led Zhuowen and the others into the space-time temple. In the depths of the space-time temple, there was an extremely large open space. In the open space, there were many divine pillars that were so thick that it would take several people to wrap their arms around them. The surface of each divine pillar was engraved with dense and strange patterns. At the same time, the top of the divine pillar was connected to a thick divine chain. On the surface of the divine chain, there were strong bolts of lightning surging, and the aura it exuded was vast and powerful. The gazes of Zhuowen and the others couldn't help but be attracted by the divine chains that were connected to the divine pillars. At the end of the divine chains was an incomparably huge beast that was tied up. This beast was oval in shape, and its body was covered with strange scales. There were also fins on the sides of its body. What was even more strange was that when the beast's fins swayed, the surrounding space was distorted and collapsed. Time seemed to have stopped. What powerful space-time energy! Is this the space-time beast? Zhuowen muttered softly as he looked at the beast that was tied up by the divine chains. His gaze became extremely solemn. One had to admit that the space-time beast's control of space-time energy was much stronger than that of human cultivators. It was no wonder that it could travel freely in the space-time turbulence. Manager Lin. At the front of the open space, a man in a black robe came forward and bowed respectfully to the beautiful woman. The beautiful woman nodded and introduced him to Zhuowen and the others with a smile. "Everyone, this is the beast tamer of this space-time beast. You can call him Dark." The man in the black robe looked at Zhuowen and the others indifferently. He only nodded and didn't say anything. Shan Lingyun frowned slightly. This man in the black robe was too rude. He didn't even greet them. The beautiful woman smiled and said, "Dark's character is like this. He is a man of few words and doesn't like to talk much. Don't mind him too much." As she spoke, the beautiful woman looked at the man in the black robe and said, "Dark, can the space-time beast depart?" "It can depart at any time." Let the guests follow me onto the space-time beast. Dark nodded and then said to Zhuowen and the others, "Follow me." As he spoke, Dark kicked his right foot and flew straight up. He flew along the nearest divine chain and quickly charged towards the space-time beast. Zhuowen and the others also flew out and followed closely behind. After Dark entered the divine chain, the powerful divine lightning that was released on the surface of the divine chain also disappeared. It didn't cause any harm to Zhuowen and the others. When they flew onto the space-time beast, they realized that there were many pavilions and towers on the back of the space-time beast. At a glance, it looked like a small city. Zhuowen and the others even saw that in some of the pavilions there were many cultivators chatting and drinking merrily. There were also some who were calling their friends, and some who stopped to look outside. These guests are also going to the magical realm, just like all of you. Dark said. Zhuowen and the others were enlightened. Obviously, they weren't the only group that was going to the magical realm. Chapter 4109. Disciple, why do you keep looking at that pavilion? Shan Lingyun noticed the strange expression on Zhuowen's face and could not help but ask. Zhuowen shook his head and said, "I must have seen wrongly. It's fine." Shan Lingyun curled her lips and did not pursue the matter further. "Everyone, the space-time divine beast is about to depart. Take your receipts and check in according to the rooms allocated on the receipts. Do not get the wrong room. Otherwise, we will not be responsible for any problems." Lady Dark said indifferently and headed straight for the space-time behemoth's head. Zhuowen and the rest were stunned. Lady Dark's attitude was too bad. She did not even lead them to their rooms. Instead, she wanted them to search for their rooms. Zhuowen took out the receipt on him. On it was written, "Third grade room, 10. The receipt was given to them by the beautiful woman after Zhuowen had paid the crystal stones. Each of them had one receipt. The rooms on the space-time behemoth were also divided into grades. They were A, B, C, and D, with A being the highest and D being the lowest. As the A rooms were too expensive and D rooms were too simple, Zhuowen bought a third grade room. It was just right. "Disciple, I am right next to you." Shan Lingyun came over and looked at Zhuowen's receipt. She smiled and immediately showed the receipt in her hand to Zhuowen. On the receipt in Shan Lingyun's hand, the words "Third grade room 9" were written. Zhuowen rubbed Shan Lingyun's head and led the rest to the third grade room, as they had bought the tickets together. Their rooms were basically next to each other. Zhuowen came to the door of third grade room 10. He brushed the receipt on the magical array in front of the door, and the door opened automatically. Not long after Zhuowen entered the room, a figure appeared outside the door. It was pacing back and forth as if it was hesitating. "Who is it?" Zhuowen asked loudly. "I am a messenger. Can you open the door?" A young female voice came from outside the door. Zhuowen's eyes flickered, but he still walked forward and opened the door. Outside the door stood a young girl in a pink dress. She was looking around timidly, seeming rather nervous. After the door opened, the girl let out a low cry and involuntarily took a few steps back. "Deliver a letter." It was only then that Zhuowen noticed that the girl was holding an unopened envelope. "Is your name Zhuowen?" The young lady in the silk dress asked. "I am Zhuowen. How do you know my room number and name? And who asked you to deliver the letter to me?" Zhuowen's eyes were like torches as he coldly looked at the young girl. Zhuowen did not recognize the girl in front of him, but she actually knew his name. This caused a chill to rise in his heart. If it weren't for the fact that the young lady's aura wasn't that strong, and that she was only in the yin-yang transformation, Zhuowen would have already made his move. The girl was frightened by Zhuowen's tone. She suddenly stuttered and a trace of mist rose in her eyes. I'm just a messenger. It was the messenger who told me your room number and name. Why are you so fierce? And I don't know who the messenger is, but he is a big shot. He is a supreme expert of the great carefree realm. He is not to be trifled with. The girl seemed to have thrown caution to the wind. She curled her lips and said with some righteous indignation. Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He did not expect that the person who delivered the letter to him was at the great carefree realm. Taking the envelope, Zhuowen silently looked at the girl's back as she left. His face revealed a thoughtful expression. He opened the seal of the envelope. Suddenly, a divine thought floated out of the envelope and entered Zhuowen's mind. Come to the Agarwood Pavilion in the A-Zone. I will wait for you on the top floor of the Agarwood Pavilion. As the divine thought disappeared, the envelope in Zhuowen's hand burned by itself. What a familiar divine thought! Zhuowen muttered to himself, but a strange light burst out from his eyes. He did not hesitate for long before leaving the room and heading to the A-Zone. The Agarwood Pavilion was extremely famous in the A-Zone. Therefore, Zhuowen immediately found the address of the Agarwood Pavilion after asking around. May I ask if the young master is Zhuowen? As soon as Zhuowen arrived at the entrance of the Agarwood Pavilion, a charming and beautiful woman came out of the Agarwood Pavilion. She looked at Zhuowen softly and asked. Zhuowen did not answer the beautiful woman's question. Instead, his powerful divine thought swept into the Agarwood Pavilion like a storm. The Agarwood Pavilion was an extremely famous restaurant in the area. Not only was it famous for its wine and delicacies, but the geisha here were also multi-talented and beautiful. Generally, those who could afford to stay in the A-Zone rooms were either powerful or held high positions. Therefore, the Agarwood Pavilion was extremely popular. The moment Zhuowen's divine thought swept out, the beautiful woman who was greeting Zhuowen suddenly changed her expression. Young master, please don't do this. Quickly withdraw your divine thought. The beautiful woman said in a panic. As soon as the beautiful woman finished speaking, waves of powerful divine thought gathered in the Agarwood Pavilion like a storm and fell on Zhuowen. Zhuowen's eyelids twitched. He found that most of the masters of the divine thought were ancient star transformation experts, and the number was quite shocking. What an arrogant boy! How dare you use your divine thought to explore the Agarwood Pavilion? Are you courting death? Humph! Where did this country bumpkin come from? Don't you know the rules of the Agarwood Pavilion? How dare you use your divine thought so casually? Are you courting death? Waves of unfriendly divine thought descended like a huge mountain, crushing Zhuowen's body. The beautiful woman's face turned pale with fright. She secretly thought that it was over. The VIPs of the Agarwood Pavilion were all rich and powerful. Zhuowen's unruly use of his divine thought to explore the entire Agarwood Pavilion would incur the wrath of everyone. Even she would not be able to suppress it. Everyone, please calm down. This young master is new here and does not know the rules, so the beautiful woman quickly smiled apologetically and bowed to the Agarwood Pavilion. Her face was slightly pale. Humph! Even if he is new and does not know the rules, it is the same. We must teach this newbie a lesson. Otherwise, if anyone comes here and uses their divine thought, why would we come to the Agarwood Pavilion in the future? Are you looking for trouble? Yes. The rules cannot be broken. We can't let him off the hook just because he is new. Waves of divine thought gathered, and all of them were extremely dissatisfied. Some were even gloating. The beautiful woman wiped the cold sweat on her forehead and smiled bitterly. This was really difficult. After all, it was difficult to provoke the wrath of the crowd. Chapter 41:10. Humph! Suddenly, A cold snort came from the top floor of the Agarwood Pavilion. It was like a heavenly power that shrouded the entire Agarwood Pavilion. Because of this cold snort, the divine thoughts that were originally discussing quieted down. This aura, this pressure, was simply too strong. It made them feel as if the sky was falling down. It's the Lord on the top floor. Inside the Agarwood Pavilion, someone whispered to himself, trembling with fear. Before they entered the Agarwood Pavilion, they had been informed that the top floor of the Agarwood Pavilion had been reserved by a supreme expert of the great, carefree realm. Who would dare to offend such an expert? This person is a distinguished guest that I have invited. If you are dissatisfied or unhappy, feel free to tell me. I will give you an explanation. A calm voice came slowly from the top floor of the Agarwood Pavilion. Although the voice was calm, it was like a thunderclap, exploding in everyone's mind and deafening their ears. Everyone's heart trembled, and they all resentfully gave up and fell silent. The person on the top floor was a great figure of the great carefree realm. How would they have the guts to ask him for an explanation? Wasn't that courting death? So it's the Lord's friend. It's a misunderstanding. We were just joking. Don't take it to heart. Yes, everyone makes mistakes. This young master is still a newcomer, so it's understandable that he doesn't know the rules. They all withdrew their divine thoughts and explained to the Agarwood Pavilion. They no longer dared to criticize Zhuowen. The beautiful woman breathed a sigh of relief. Her beautiful eyes looked curiously at Zhuowen. As the manager of the Agarwood Pavilion, she knew very well how powerful and honorable the person on the top floor was. Moreover, he was extremely domineering in dealing with people. She did not expect that in order to help Zhuowen out, that person was willing to come in person. It could be seen that the young man in front of her held a high position in that person's heart. Zhuowen's eyes became extremely dignified. He raised his head and silently looked at the top floor of the Agarwood Pavilion. There, by the bamboo window, there was a reflection of a deep figure. What a powerful divine sense! This person is probably even stronger than Saiku Hongfei and Zhu Yangqi. Zhuowen's gaze was solemn. Saiku Hongfei and the other two were all in the middle stage of the Great Tribulation of Universe, and this person gave him an even stronger feeling. Wouldn't that mean that he was at least an expert in the late stage of the Great Tribulation of Universe? Thinking of this, Zhuowen's heart sank. He did not know any experts with such cultivation. Zhuowen still couldn't tell whether this person was friend or foe. Young master, that lord is waiting for you on the top floor. Come with me. The beautiful woman leisurely walked in front of Zhuowen. Her soft and delicate hands gently held onto Zhuowen's hand as she led him into the Agarwood Pavilion. Zhuowen's brows furrowed slightly. He gently shook off the beautiful woman's hand and said indifferently, "I'll just follow behind you." The beautiful woman didn't feel awkward at all. She calmly led the way in front. The Agarwood Pavilion had a total of 7 floors. From the bottom to the top, the decorations were getting more and more luxurious. Without a doubt, the higher the floor of the Agarwood Pavilion, the more luxurious the decorations were. Of course, the higher the price. When they reached the top floor, the beautiful woman respectfully said outside the door, "Sir, I have invited young Master Zhuowen here." Inside the room, there was no response for a long time. The beautiful woman had said it for the second time. Finally, a low and hoarse voice was heard. "I understand. You can leave." The beautiful woman nodded. She didn't dare to stay any longer. She glanced at Zhuowen and hurriedly left. "Brother Zhua, long time no see. Your cultivation progress is actually so fast. It's beyond my expectations." After the beautiful woman left, The voice in the room rang out again. However, this time, the voice was no longer hoarse and low. Instead, it was filled with a young and loud voice. Hearing this voice, Zhuowen's eyes lit up. Could it be Brother Duan? Zhuowen hesitated slightly and asked tentatively, "Ha ha, Brother Zhuo, you have a good memory. You can still remember my voice. Come in." Hearty laughter came from inside the room. Then, the originally closed door was immediately opened. Through the door, it could be seen that the area of this box was very large. There were 5 rooms with gorgeous decorations. In front of the hall, a figure was standing and looking at Zhuowen with a smile. It was a handsome young man. His white robe was slightly fluttering, and he looked natural and unrestrained. This person was Duan Jipeng, whom Zhuowen had saved outside the boundary of the starry sky. "It's really you, Brother Duan. I haven't seen you for a long time. You have already stepped into the great freedom realm." Zhuowen laughed, stepped into the hall, and gave Duan Jipeng a big bear hug. Duan Jipeng generously hugged Zhuowen back. The corners of his eyes were full of smiles. Meeting an old friend in a foreign land naturally added a sense of closeness. Moreover, Zhuowen and Duan Jipeng had gone through life and death together. Although they didn't get along for long, their friendship was not shallow. "Take a seat." Duan Jipeng waved his sleeve and closed the door again. Then he led Zhuowen to a seat. He flipped his right hand, and a white jade wine pot and 2 white jade wine cups appeared on the table. He filled the 2 white jade wine cups to the brim, and then said with a smile, "Compared to Brother Zhuo, what is this little bit of achievement of mine?" Zhuowen didn't comment. He remembered that when he first met Duan Jipeng was only at the God realm. At that time, he was being chased by Venerable Hong Rui of the Niwa clan. Both of them were heavily injured and almost died. At the critical moment, he schemed to let Venerable Hong Rui enter the Starry Sky. With the help of the Starry Sky's rules, he killed the heavily injured Venerable Hong Rui and saved Duan Jipeng's life. Since Duan Jipeng was able to reach the great carefree realm from the God realm on the day they met again, he must have had a lot of opportunities. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to advance so quickly. "Brother Duan, you must be joking. Speaking of which, the one who should really thank you is me. If it weren't for you, the Starry Sky would have been destroyed by the Niwa clan." Zhuowen smiled. Back then, Duan Jipeng used his astral weapon, the Dark Chakra Eye, to help him conceal Venerable Hong Rui's aura. Thus, the Niwa clan's great senior couldn't find the place where Venerable Hong Rui died. This gave the Starry Sky a chance to survive. Therefore, he was sincerely grateful for what Duan Jipeng had done for him and the Starry Sky. "Haha, that's what I should do. Speaking of which, Brother Zhuo, with your speed of improvement, you won't need 10,000 years. I'm afraid you'll be able to reach the great carefree realm within 1,000 years. Then, you'll be more than enough to protect the Starry Sky. You might even be able to build a base in the 100 domains outside the Starry Sky. That's a big force." Chapter 4111. "Brother Duan, you should have recognized me when I first entered the space-time beast, right?" Zhuowen said to Duan Jipeng with a smile as he toyed with the white jade cup in his hand. Earlier, when he first entered the space-time beast, he saw a familiar figure. It should be Duan Jipeng. However, Zhuowen found it strange that Duan Jipeng didn't come out to meet him when he recognized him. Instead, he sent someone to secretly send him a letter to meet him at the Agarwood Pavilion. Duan Jipeng nodded and said, "Brother Zhuo, your divine senses are really sharp. You can actually sense my aura. At that time, I did see you, but I couldn't openly acknowledge you." At this point, Duan Jipeng's expression became very serious. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, "Is it because of the Niwa clan?" Duan Jipeng nodded and said, The Dark Chakra Eye is an extremely powerful set of complete astral weapons of the Nuwa clan. Its power is much stronger than many astral weapon fragments. The Nuwa clan will never give up on such an item. As a result, the Nuwa clan has been hunting me down since the beginning, and they've been hunting me down. This is also why I was so cautious when I saw you. Zhuowen nodded. He had heard about the enmity between Duan Jipeng and the Nuwa clan from Duan Jipeng. The daughter of the Grand Master, concubine Yun, fell in love with Duan Jipeng. She wanted to recruit Duan Jipeng, but rejected the marriage. The main reason was that concubine Yun had a complete astral weapon like the Dark Chakra Eye in her body. In the future, the Grand Master would completely control the Dark Chakra Eye by sacrificing it to concubine Yun. Unfortunately, in order to save Duan Jipeng, concubine Yun sacrificed herself and gave the Dark Chakra Eye to Duan Jipeng. This helped Duan Jipeng escape the pursuit of the Nuwa clan. The Nuwa clan would never give up on the Dark Chakra Eye. Therefore, they would continue to hunt down Duan Jipeng until they captured him. Duan Jipeng definitely wouldn't let the Nuwa clan off either. He had to avenge his wife's death. Under the intense pursuit of the Nuwa clan, Duan Jipeng naturally didn't dare to openly acknowledge Zhuowen. Otherwise, not only would his tracks be exposed, he would even implicate Zhuowen. Brother Duan, just how powerful is the Nuwa clan? Can you tell me a thing or two? Zhuowen's expression became rather solemn. Even with Duan Jipeng's current level of cultivation, he was still so cautious. The strength of the Nuwa clan was probably beyond his expectations. Duan Jipeng was silent for a moment before he sighed and said, Brother Zhua, I'm sure you're aware of the hierarchy of the 100 outer domains. Zhuowen nodded and said, I've heard that the 100 outer domains are divided into 5 levels, namely the low level, the medium level, the high level, the super level, and the invincible level. What level is the Nuwa domain? The Nuwa domain is a high-level domain, and the Grand Master of the Nuwa clan is the guardian of the Nuwa domain. His cultivation has already reached the reverse ancient starlight realm. Duan Jipeng smiled bitterly. What? Reverse ancient starlight realm? Zhuowen gasped. The reverse ancient starlight realm was the 3rd level of the great carefree realm. It was far more powerful than the universal calamity realm. He had never imagined that the Grand Master of the Nuwa clan would be so powerful. No wonder Duan Jipeng was still so cautious after reaching the great carefree realm. Through Duan Jipeng's narration, Zhuowen gradually gained a general understanding of the distribution of the 100 outer domains. The levels of a domain were divided according to the cultivation of the strongest expert in each domain. For example, there were only 5 invincible domains in the 100 outer domains. They were the most powerful domains in the 100 outer domains, and they all had the strongest experts in the all-in-one domain. It was said that the Abyss domain, which was publicly recognized as the number 1 domain, was suspected to have an expert at the peak of all-in-one domain who was already standing at the peak of the 100 outer domains. And such an expert was said to have a slight possibility of coming into contact with the immemorial star system. The immemorial star system was high and mighty, ruling the entire vast and boundless chaotic starry sky. Many creatures in their whole lives were just to be able to step into the mysterious star system, because in the immemorial star system there was a supreme power and the secret of immortality. However, the immemorial star system was too far away for most creatures. It was an existence that they could only look at but not reach, and the strongest expert in the Abyss domain had a slight possibility of coming into contact with the immemorial star system. This was already extremely amazing. Brother Duan, what is your realm? Zhuowen glanced at Duan Jipeng and asked curiously, My current cultivation is only at the peak of the universal calamity realm. I haven't even reached the cosmic Dharma idol. There is still a huge gap between me and the more powerful reverse ancient starlight. But I am confident that as long as I can successfully break through and eventually condense the cosmic Dharma idol, and then rely on the power of the star weapon dark chakra, I will have the power to protect myself in the face of the Nuwa clan's pursuit. At that time, I won't have to be so scared, hiding from place to place. Duan Jipeng revealed a wry smile. Obviously, he also felt tired of these days of hiding. Zhuowen nodded. Although he was not in the great carefree realm, he also knew that in the great carefree realm, the difficulty of cultivation was definitely much higher than in the heaven-breaking realm. With Duan Jipeng's talent, if he cultivated normally, it would probably take an immeasurable amount of time to finally break through the cosmic Dharma idol. And if Duan Jipeng wanted to break through in a short time, he could only obtain a great opportunity. Brother Duan, I think you should have other things besides catching up with me. Zhuowen said slowly, his deep eyes silently looking at Duan Jipeng. Duan Jipeng smiled embarrassedly and said, Brother Zhuo, your observation skills are indeed very sharp. You're right, I called you here not only to catch up with you, but also to tell you something. To be more precise, I want to give you a good fortune. Creation? Zhuo Wen's eyes were filled with surprise. Duan Jipeng suddenly leaned close and whispered, Brother Zhuo, have you heard of the extraterritorial battlefield? Zhuowen shook his head and said, This is the first time I've heard of it. What is this so-called extraterritorial battlefield? Duan Jipeng revealed an, as expected, expression and said in a low voice, The extraterritorial battlefield is the battlefield opened up outside the borders of the 100 outer realms. And in this battlefield, there are numerous powerful extraterritorial creatures. Once you apply for the identity of a warrior in the extraterritorial battlefield, then you can fight with the numerous extraterritorial creatures in the extraterritorial battlefield. After Duan Jipeng's narration, Zhuowen finally had a preliminary understanding of this so-called extraterritorial battlefield. Chapter 41:12. There were all kinds of creatures in the extraterritorial battlefield. There were terrifying beasts that were not human cultivators from other mysterious spaces, and even some strange races. And these extraterrestrial beings only had one purpose in coming to the extraterritorial battlefield, and that was to kill. They had to constantly kill in order to obtain sufficient contribution points. There were many uses for contribution points. It could directly increase one's cultivation level, and it could also be exchanged for many precious divine medicines and divine pills that could not be exchanged in the outside world. It could even be exchanged for powerful astral weapons. Moreover, the chaotic energy in the extraterritorial battlefield is much denser than most realms, and it contains many ownerless chaos mineral veins. As long as you're lucky enough to find a chaos mineral vein, you'll be rich. In addition to chaos mineral veins, there are many extremely rare treasures in the extraterritorial battlefield. As long as you're strong enough and cautious enough in the extraterritorial battlefield, you'll be able to rapidly increase your cultivation level in a short period of time. The reason why my cultivation level was able to increase from the God realm change to the universe tribulation stage in such a short period of time is mainly because I once roamed the extraterritorial battlefield and obtained many opportunities. That's how I was able to achieve this. Duan Jipeng's gaze became rather fervent. He couldn't help but be very excited when talking about the extraterritorial battlefield. Hearing this, Zhuowen couldn't help but be moved. Although he didn't have much of an understanding of the extraterritorial battlefield, for Duan Jipeng to achieve such achievements, it was obvious that the extraterritorial battlefield was indeed extraordinary. Brother Duan, as long as you apply, you'll have the qualifications to enter the extraterritorial battlefield? Zhuowen asked. Duan Jipeng shook his head and said, although the extraterritorial battlefield is extremely cruel, there are many opportunities. It's a treasure land. The main reason is that it's controlled by the 5 invincible realms and the archaic Heavenly Tao Academy. If you can't obtain the corresponding quota from these 6 forces, you won't be able to enter the extraterritorial battlefield at all. My luck is pretty good. Back then, I accidentally obtained a quota and entered the extraterritorial battlefield with the cultivation of the Fiend God change. Relying on the power of the Dark Chakra, I went through a lot of hardships and finally achieved my current achievements. Brother Zhua, you haven't entered the extraterritorial battlefield before, but your cultivation level has increased so quickly. This shows that your talent is extremely amazing. If you're able to enter the outer realm battlefield to temper yourself, then your cultivation will progress even faster. Zhuowen nodded and silently looked at Duan Jipeng. Since the extraterritorial battlefield required a quota to enter, Zhuowen clearly did not have the qualifications in his current state. Brother Duan, could the good fortune you mentioned be this extraterritorial battlefield? But I don't have a place to enter. Zhuowen smiled faintly. No, the fortune I'm talking about is the powerful succession I found in the extraterritorial battlefield. If he could enter that inheritance, he would receive a great fortune. As for your quota, I've already thought of it for you, Duan Jipeng said mysteriously. He smiled but kept her in suspense. Zhuowen was startled and nodded. He did not ask about the quota. Since Duan Jipeng had helped him settle the matter of the quota, it was obvious that he was not joking. Brother Duan, since you're riding the space-time beast this time, it's obvious that you're planning to head to the magical realm. The magical realm is not very far from the Nuwa realm, so your trip. Zhuowen hesitated for a moment and asked in a low voice. When the Nuwa realm was mentioned, Duan Jipeng's eyes suddenly became sharp. I've heard rumors that the tomb of an expert suspected to be a cosmic Dharma idol has appeared in the magical realm, and someone has even found a Dharma idol divine fruit there. The Dharma idol divine fruit is the best supplementary item to condense a cosmic Dharma idol. If I can get the Dharma idol divine fruit, the time it takes to condense a cosmic Dharma idol will be greatly reduced, and my strength will rise to a new level. When the Dharma idol divine fruit was mentioned, Duan Jipeng's eyes surged with passion. Obviously, he yearned for the Dharma idol divine fruit. Zhuowen secretly clicked his tongue. He didn't expect that the tomb of such an expert would appear in the witch god realm. No wonder when he entered the space-time beast, he found that there were so many experts heading to the witch god realm. It seemed that they were all here for the cosmic Dharma experts. They were all here for the tomb. Brother Zhua, this tomb will attract many experts of the great calamity of heaven and earth to fight for it. I've even heard that many geniuses on the outer realm heavenly list are also interested and will gather in the magical realm. And the geniuses who can be on the outer realm heavenly list basically have a Dharma idol token on them. They have a Dharma idol token for the extraterritorial battlefield. When we enter the tomb, if we encounter such geniuses, we can kill 1 or 2 of them and take the Dharma idol token for ourselves. Duan Jipeng smiled faintly. Zhuowen smiled bitterly. He had to admit that Duan Jipeng was really straightforward. Snatching the Dharma idol token was indeed a clean and efficient way. Compared to the Dharma idol token, Zhuowen was more interested in the tomb. The tomb of a cosmic Dharma idol expert was definitely not ordinary. This was a great opportunity for him. Brother Duan, the news you've brought is too timely for me. I really can't thank you enough. Zhuowen cupped his hands and thanked him. Duan Jipeng waved his hand and said, Brother Zhua, you're too polite. There's no need to be polite between you and me. This time, you'll enter the tomb with me. This way, you'll be safer. Zhuowen originally wanted to refuse, but Duan Jipeng was really too enthusiastic and insisted on going together. Zhuowen had no choice but to agree. After the two talked for a while, they became much closer to each other. Seeing that it was getting late, Zhuowen said goodbye and left the Agarwood Pavilion. Before leaving, many practitioners in the Agarwood Pavilion looked at Zhuowen with a trace of awe and fear in their eyes. After all, the top expert of the great carefree realm had personally stood up for him. Obviously, this person's background was not small. How could they dare to look down on him? Zhuowen ignored these strange looks and went straight back to his room. Zhuowen had also roughly told Duan Jipeng about Huxley. Duan Jipeng promised Zhuowen that after entering the sorcerer realm, he would first follow him to the sorcerer sacred city where the sorcerer clan was located. After settling down Huxley's clansmen, the two of them would go to the tomb together. Fortunately, the tomb was still in a closed state. It was said that there was still some time before it appeared, so Duan Jipeng was not in a hurry. In addition, Duan Jipeng had also said that this time he had also gathered several experts of the great calamity of heaven and earth to enter the tomb together. This way, the chances of obtaining the divine fruit of Dharma origin would be greatly increased. In order to prepare for the upcoming battle of the tomb, Zhuowen had to improve his strength as much as possible during this period of time. His cultivation had just improved not long ago, so it was obviously not possible to improve it again. Therefore, he spent the rest of the time on the art of Array Tao. Chapter 41:13. Time gradually passed. Finally, after 2 months, Zhuowen, who had been in seclusion in his room to comprehend the heaven-mending catalog, slowly opened his eyes. In his eyes, there was a blazing light, as if he could see through the essence of anything. The so-called 10,000 laws of nature means that the art of array formation exists in the heart. With a thought, I can create an array. Everything is natural. Everything is free. Zhuowen muttered to himself, then let out a carefree laugh. Then, with a thought, he entered the macro world. He came to a place with lofty mountains and steep ridges. With a wave of his sleeve, an extremely powerful array phantom appeared in the void. The array phantom was formed by endless array patterns. It looked illusory, but the aura it exuded was extremely powerful. Zhuowen clenched his right hand in the air, and the originally illusory great array suddenly turned corporeal. The aura of the array skyrocketed several times, like the might of heaven, enveloping the entire macro world. Zhuowen waved his sleeve once again, and the seemingly solid great array collapsed. Countless array patterns disappeared into thin air, while a trace of a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He finally took the last half-step smoothly, and his array formation reached the first heavenly layer of the eternal grade. Array formation and alchemy Tao were both broad and profound. Above the heaven-breaching grade was the eternal grade. There were 5 heavens in the eternal grade. The first heavens was the lowest, and the 5th heavens was the highest. The power of the array that could be arranged was enough to trap an expert of the great carefree realm. Compared to array formation, my progress in alchemy Tao is a bit slow. Zhuowen muttered to himself, and a bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. His array formation level had reached the first heavenly layer of the eternal grade, but his alchemy Tao level was still hovering around the 8th level of the heaven-breaching grade. Of course, this was also related to his opportunity. After all, he had obtained a powerful array formation book, the Heaven-Mending Catalog, which gave him a clear direction in array formation. Alchemy, on the other hand, was not so lucky. If he could also obtain this kind of opportunity, he believed that his achievements in alchemy would not be much weaker than his attainments in array formations. After Zhuowen removed the array, Xiaohei's divine sense suddenly rang out in his mind. Then, a terrifying sword light shot toward him from afar. The black sword light was like a bolt of black lightning. It flickered in the distance and appeared not far from Zhuowen. Roar! The instant the sword appeared in front of Zhuowen, an extremely loud and clear dragon roar was emitted from the sword. It whizzed out and resounded through the clouds. At the same time, Zhuowen also saw the true appearance of the sword. The sword was 4 meters long. It was completely black and crystal clear, as if it was forged from a black crystal diamond. On the surface of the sword, there was a pitch-black dragon-shaped pattern that extended from the end of the hilt all the way to the tip of the sword. It was natural and lifelike. Kid, you've caused such a big commotion as soon as you entered the outside world. Xiao He flew out of the divine sword and sat on the hilt. He crossed his legs and curled his lips. Zhuowen smiled slightly and said, I've just mastered array formations, so I'm itching to try it in the outside world. Speaking of which, Xiao He, are you familiar with this sword now? Xiao He scratched his head and said with a smile, I'm just getting familiar with it. Moreover, this extreme nether sacred sword is worthy of being a rank 7 astral weapon. The energy it gives me is really too pure. During this time, I've made another breakthrough and successfully advanced to the ancient star transformation. Zhuowen's eyes revealed a look of surprise. It seemed that this extreme nether sacred sword had many benefits for Xiao He. It hadn't been long, and Xiao He had actually broken through a major realm. At this speed, wouldn't Xiao He step into the great carefree realm before him? However, the stronger Xiao He's strength was, the happier Zhuowen was. After all, the stronger his strength, the more proficient his control of the extreme nether sacred sword would be, and the greater the help to him. Kid, a strange stone seemed to have appeared in the outside world. That stone seems to have a life of its own. Xiao He suddenly said, Amen. Strange stone, are you talking about the primordial stone? Zhuowen said, rather jokingly. Xiao He said solemnly, I'm serious. A stone really appeared. An extremely powerful heartbeat is even coming from inside that stone. Seeing Xiao He so solemn, Zhuowen also put away his joking expression. He said curiously, Bring me over to take a look. Following that, Xiao He brought Zhuowen through the vast and boundless grasslands, mighty and magnificent mountains, and the ever-changing climate, arriving at the easternmost region of the outside world. In the east, there was a boundless sea. On the surface of the sea, there stood an irregular stone pillar. This stone pillar was derived from the depths of the sea. It was slanted on the surface of the sea, looking very strange. That strange stone is on top of that stone pillar. Xiao He stood on the extreme nether sacred sword, one of his little claws pointing forward. Zhuowen looked in the direction Xiao He pointed. Indeed, he saw that on top of that stone pillar, there was an irregular stone lying quietly. This stone was about the size of an ordinary person's head. Its surface was bumpy, and there was nothing special about it. Zhuowen looked at Xiao He doubtfully, his eyes revealing an inquiring look. Watch carefully. The best part is yet to come. Xiao He's eyes were solemn. He suddenly waved his little claws, and the white clouds above the sea dispersed. A ray of golden light of the rising sun sprinkled down, enveloping the stone pillar. When Zhuowen looked at the stone again, he was surprised to find that the surface of the stone was shining with a blazing golden light. The stone was also moving up and down, like a beating heart. Let's go take a look. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He took a step forward and landed on the stone pillar. When he walked in to take a look, he found that the surface of the stone was engraved with dense and strange characters. He had never seen these characters before. It should be a brand new language. Thump, thump. At the same time, there was a rhythmic pulse coming from this strange stone. It was as if there was a beating heart hidden in this stone. Zhuowen frowned slightly. His divine sense landed on the stone. He found that his divine sense could not detect the internal structure of this stone. It was as if this was really an ordinary stone. This is too strange. Zhuowen pondered for a moment. His right hand slowly landed on the stone. Then he felt a sense of intimacy from his bloodline. This feeling was similar to when Zhuowen held Zhuojun and for the first time when he was just born. It was an innate sense of intimacy from his bloodline. Zhuowen shook his head. There was a strange look in his eyes. Zhuojun and was his son. It was normal for him to feel this way. Chapter 41:14. Crack. Countless cracks appeared on the surface of the stone. These cracks quickly spread until the entire stone broke apart. From the cracked stone, a clear and melodious cry of a baby could be heard. It's a baby? Zhuowen was completely dumbfounded. He looked at the baby lying in the debris and was completely dumbfounded. A baby jumped out of the stone. Wasn't this too against common sense? Holy shit, what's going on? Brat, when did you not even let go of a stone? Xiao He, who was originally sitting on the sword hilt, was dumbfounded and almost fell to the ground. Blue veins appeared on Zhuowen's forehead. He suddenly sent Xiao He flying with a palm strike. This guy's mouth was too cheap. Brat, I was just joking. Don't take it to heart. Xiao He flew back. His face was full of embarrassment, but he didn't dare to speak carelessly. Zhuowen held the baby in his arms. The baby, who was originally crying, suddenly stopped crying and even giggled. Brat, look, he's laughing. You must be his father without a doubt. Xiao He yelled. Zhuowen was expressionless. He once again punched Xiao He. This time, Xiao He was completely obedient and didn't dare to tease Zhuowen anymore. Suddenly, the strings of strange characters on the surface of the debris on the stone pillar seemed to be alive. They actually broke away from the stone pillar, rushed into the sky, and landed on the baby's body. The originally white and flawless baby, who looked like a beautiful jade sculpture, was now covered with dense, strange characters. In an instant, the baby's aura also rose rapidly. In just 10 breaths' time, the baby actually jumped from an ordinary person with no cultivation level to the virtual sky world. Moreover, the baby's cultivation level was still rising. First step in the virtual sky world, second step in the virtual sky world, eighth step in the virtual sky world, ninth step in the virtual sky world. However, after his aura reached the ninth step in the virtual sky world, although the rising of his aura slowed down, it didn't stop. His aura was still growing stronger. In the end, the baby crossed the two extremes of life and death and successfully confirmed his Tao. As soon as he was born, he inexplicably succeeded in confirming his Tao. Moreover, he's a heaven's mandate lord at the second step of Tao validation. Xiao He's jaw almost dropped. He looked at the baby in Zhuowen's arms as if he was looking at a monster. This was the first time he had seen a newborn baby with a Tao-confirming cultivation base. This was too heaven-defying. Zhuowen was completely stunned. He thought that his son was already heaven-defying enough. He was born at the peak of the true God realm and reached the void sky 8 steps at the age of 20. But compared to the baby in front of him, his son was far inferior. This should be a human born from the great world, but he's too heaven-defying. Zhuowen looked at the giggling baby in his hand with mixed feelings. Doesn't that mean that this little baby is the first human in your great world? This was the heavens as the father and the earth as the mother, a true son of heaven and earth. I'm afraid he's going to be an amazing guy in the future. Xiao He rubbed his hands and looked at the baby in Zhuowen's hands with a kind gaze. He had been in the great world for so many years, and had always been with the blood immortal sword and the sacrificial death sword. He had long been tired of it. Now, the great world had finally given birth to its first human. He would not be so bored in the future. Zhuowen suddenly said, "This child's power seems to be completely different from ours. His body is extremely strong, but there's not a trace of divine power in it." Xiaohe came over and looked carefully. His eyes also became serious. Zhuowen was right. There was no divine power in the child's body. The powerful aura was all emitted by that small body. Xiaohe said seriously, "The strength of his body seems to come from these strange characters on his body." Could it be? Zhuowen and Xiaohe raised their heads at the same time and looked at each other. They could see the shock in each other's eyes. "Boy, your great world is amazing. This newly born infant's cultivation path might be a brand new system. A cultivation system that may not exist in the 100 outer regions or even in the chaotic starry sky. It's a system that can turn the world upside down. It's a revolution of the earth." Xiaohe said excitedly. Zhuowen's eyes were full of surprise. If their guess was right, then Zhuowen's great world was really amazing. It was a brand new world that did not rely on the chaotic starry sky at all. It had its own rules, laws, and energy. It also had a brand new system that was derived by itself. The baby in front of them was the ancestor of this cultivation system. He would definitely be an extraordinary person in the future. "Xiaohe, I'll leave this child to you. Remember to take care of him. For me. If there's any problem, you must inform me immediately." Zhuowen handed the baby to Xiaohe. The latter's eyes lit up, and he transformed into a handsome young man in a black robe. He carefully took the baby. What embarrassed Xiaohe was that the baby immediately cried and threw a tantrum as soon as he took it. Xiaohe's face was covered in dirt. It took a lot of effort for him to calm the baby down. "This child can't be nameless. How about I give him a name?" Xiaohe said excitedly. It was the first time that Zhuowen had seen Xiaohe so excited. He did not refuse the latter's suggestion. In the end, after some consideration, Xiaohe finally decided on the baby's name. He even handed over the blood celestial sword and the sacrificial sword's device spirit for discussion. The baby was born from the rock and was born in the light of the rising sun through the cracks in the clouds. Therefore, Xiaohe named the baby Shurpatian. Although there were many mysteries surrounding Shurpatian, Zhuowen also knew that if he wanted to understand Shurpotian's cultivation system and the meaning of the strange characters engraved on his body, he would have to wait until Shurpatian was a little older and could speak. However, Zhuowen had a strong premonition that the birth of this child would have a great impact on the chaotic starry sky under the rule of the ancient star system in the future. Although he did not know how great the impact would be in the future, he was sure that it would not be a small one. Another few days passed. Zhuowen, who had been cultivating in his room, felt a violent tremor coming from his surroundings. His divine thoughts swept out and found that the huge space-time beast had left the space-time turbulence and appeared on a vast plain. At the end of the plain, there were mountains and rivers. Dear guests, the destination of this trip, the magical realm, is about to arrive. Dear guests, please be prepared in advance. A sweet female voice rang out from every room on the space-time beast. Chapter 41:15. Esteemed guests, we are landing at the biggest city in the Sorcerer God world, Sorcerer God City. This city is the outer city of the Sorcerer God's sacred city. It is a huge city that is specially used for foreign cultivators to trade and travel. The sweet female voice sounded again on the deck. Disciple, you are already out. No wonder you did not respond when I knocked on your door. Zhuowen turned around and saw Shan Lingyun walking over with Sa Mei and Tuo Sheng. Behind them was a group of Huxley tribesmen. Zhuowen smiled and looked at the huge city in the distance. He said, "We are almost at Sorcerer God City. Master, you should be able to contact your aunt in Sorcerer God City." Shan Lingyun walked to Zhuowen's side and looked at the city in the distance. She nodded and said, "There is a special way to contact my tribe on the letter that my father left behind. As long as we are not too far away, I will be able to use the communication method on the letter. I will be able to contact my aunt. But I have not met this aunt before. I am not sure if she will still recognize me as her niece." Shan Lingyun seemed a little unhappy, and a trace of worry appeared in her eyes. Zhuowen rubbed Shan Lingyun's head and said, "Master, don't worry. Since the tribe leader has entrusted you and the rest of the tribesmen to your aunt, I am sure she will not reject you, because she is also from the Huxley tribe." Hearing this, Shan Lingyun's eyes lit up again, and she nodded her head heavily. Zhuowen chatted with Shan Lingyun, Sa Mei, and the rest as they waited for the space-time beast to land. At the same time, Zhuowen noticed that there was always a gaze on the deck that was faintly discernible in his direction. He looked up and realized that the owner of the gaze was a man in a black robe. Even his face could not be seen clearly. He seemed to have noticed Zhuowen's gaze. He nodded slightly and did not greet him. Zhuowen nodded to him as well. The black-robed man was naturally Duan Jipeng. However, Duan Jipeng was currently wanted by the Nuwa clan, so he wouldn't show himself in public. About 2 hours later, the space-time beast finally landed in a huge square in the Sorcerer God City. There was no doubt that the background of the space-time temple in the Radiant Domain was not weak. Therefore, when they entered the Sorcerer Domain and the Sorcerer God City, they were not stopped for questioning. "Dear guests, we have arrived at the Witch God City. Please disembark in an orderly manner. We welcome you to come again in the future." As the sweet female voice sounded again, the people on the deck rushed down and left the space-time beast. After Zhuowen and his group came down, they found a good inn nearby and stayed for the time being. After Shan Lingyun returned to the inn, she took out Lu Renjua's letter and began to contact her aunt. Shan Lingyun successfully got in touch with her aunt. The latter expressed that she welcomed them very much and would come to greet them in 3 days. At the same time, Zhuowen also found that under the prosperous surface of the Sorcerer God City, there was an undercurrent surging. He could feel that many extremely obscure auras were located in the Sorcerer God City. "Brother Zhua, it seems that this tomb of a cosmic Dharma plane expert is very attractive. There are at least 2 great Carefree Realm experts, and there are more than 10 geniuses on the Outer Realm Celestial list. Among them, there is an expert who is ranked in the top 20. Not long after Zhuowen settled down in the inn, he received a message from Duan Jipeng. Zhuowen took a deep breath. It seemed that the battle for the tomb this time would be a fierce battle. It would not be simple. 3 days later, outside the inn where Zhuowen was staying, an armored cultivator army with a strong aura came. This cultivator army had been through hundreds of battles. They were murderous, and their aura was much stronger than that of an ordinary cultivator army. It's the Sorcerer God army of the Sorcerer God clan. This is the most elite cultivator army of the Sorcerer God clan. They usually guard the surroundings of the Sorcerer God sacred city. Why are they here? Look, that's Lu Yingying. She is the cultivation partner of the Sorcerer God clan leader. She has a high position and authority. Why is this lady here in the Sorcerer God City? The sudden appearance of this cultivator army naturally attracted the attention of the people around the streets of the Sorcerer God City. Everyone was discussing and whispering, especially when they saw the beautiful woman in a tight outfit in front of the cultivator army. Their eyes were filled with awe. I didn't know you were here." Please forgive me for not welcoming you." The owner of the inn scrambled out and came to Lu Yingying. He was so scared that his face was pale. He was only running a small business. He did not know what he had done wrong to provoke Lu Yingying to send the sorcerer god army to his inn. Lu Yingying had snow-white skin, an oval face, and a pair of long and narrow phoenix eyes that were filled with unconcealable charm. If a man looked into her eyes, it would be easy for him to fall head over heels in love. At this moment, Lu Yingying's expression was indifferent as she said, "3 days ago, was there a group of people who stayed in your inn? The leader was called Shan Lingyun." The owner of the inn was shocked. He could only bite the bullet and say, "There was indeed such a group of people. May I know why you are looking for them?" After receiving an affirmative answer from the owner of the inn, Lu Yingying's expression eased up, and a faint smile appeared on her face. "They are very important to me. Ask them to come out now. Tell them that Lu Yingying wants to see them." Lu Yingying said. The owner of the inn naturally did not dare to delay. He responded and hurriedly entered the inn. After a while, the owner of the inn led a group of people out. The leader of this group of people was a young man with a delicate and pretty face. On the young man's shoulder was a little lowly with a delicate face. Lu Yingying's long and narrow eyes casually glanced at Zhuowen. However, her attention was on the little girl on Zhuowen's back. Her eyes revealed a trace of gentleness. "Lingyun, do you still remember me?" Lu Yingying smiled at Shan Lingyun. Shan Lingyun naturally saw Lu Yingying. Her big eyes looked at Lu Yingying timidly. Then she lowered her head and thought for a while before saying, "Is it An Yingying?" The smile on Lu Yingying's face became wider. She walked forward and took Shan Lingyun from Zhuowen's hands. Then she carried her up. "Our Lingyun is so smart. She only saw Anne a few times when she was young. After so many years, she still remembers Aunt." Lu Yingying said with a smile. Chapter 41:16. "You must be the disciples of King Valurium and King Imperial Dragon, right? Are you all that's left of our people?" Lu Yingying smiled warmly at Sa Mei and Tuo Sheng. Sa Mei and Tuo Sheng looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They nodded with difficulty. Jinshui clan, God's Eye, and Purple Mirage. How dare they work together to destroy Huxley? How despicable! Lu Yingying's eyes were filled with coldness. As she spoke, Lu Yingying's gaze landed on Zhuowen. "Lingyun, who is he?" Lu Yingying asked curiously. To her, Zhuowen was a stranger. However, he was walking in front of Sa Mei and Tuo Sheng. "Senior Lu, I am Zhuowen. I am Lingyun's disciple." Zhuowen said with a smile. "So, you are Lingyun's disciple." Lu Yingying nodded. She did not pay much attention to Zhuowen. "Auntie, disciple is the savior of our Hushu clan. When the 3 big clans invaded Huxley, he single-handedly killed the 3 clan leaders and all their elite martial artists. He even led us to escape from Saiku Hongfei, chased after them. In the end, he even defeated Saiku Hongfei." Shan Lingyun said with a smile. "What? He had single-handedly killed the patriarchs of the 3 great clans and defeated Saiku Hongfei?" This, Lu Yingying's expression finally changed. She looked at the young man in front of her carefully. The young man's aura was indeed powerful. However, he was only at the Middle Ancient Star Transformation realm. He could not even compare to the 3 clan leaders, let alone Saiku Hongfei. How could he have done such a thing? "Lingyun, are you kidding? He really killed the 3 clan leaders and Saiku Hongfei?" Lu Yingying asked with a frown. "Yes. If you don't believe me, you can ask Sa Mei and Tuo Sheng. They saw it with their own eyes in Hushu City." Shan Lingyun said innocently, "You are Zhuowen, right? Although I don't know how you did it, since you successfully brought my people out, I do have to thank you. This is a heaven-breaking, Level 9, Godly Medicine. Consider it my gift to you on behalf of Huxley. Lu Yingying arrived before Zhuowen. With a flip of her lily-white hand, an exquisite brocade box appeared in her palm, and she passed it to Zhuowen. Zhuowen was startled. He looked at the cold-faced, beautiful woman in front of him and felt a little helpless. It seemed that Lu Yingying had misunderstood him. Senior Lu, there is no need for any gifts. Ling Yun is my master. Master's kindness is as great as a mountain. I naturally won't save him. Zhuowen shook his head and refused Lu Yingying's gift of thanks. Lu Yingying glanced at Zhuowen in surprise, but she didn't refuse. She put away the brocade box and continued, "In that case, I thank you on behalf of Huxley for your help. Although you are Ling Yun's disciple, you are not Huxley's. Therefore, if I bring you into the Sorcerer God Holy City without permission, I am afraid that it will be inappropriate." Shan Lingyun saw Mei, and the others' expressions changed slightly. They immediately understood what Lu Yingying meant. Zhuowen looked deeply at Lu Yingying and smiled. "Senior Lu, don't worry. I will not be so thick-skinned as to follow you into the Sorcerer God Holy City. However, Ling Yun is my master. I hope that after they enter the Sorcerer God Holy City, they will be treated well. They will not be mistreated. If I find out that they have been mistreated in any way, I will definitely go to the Sorcerer God Holy City and ask for justice." Lu Yingying frowned. This young man's cultivation was ordinary, but his tone was not small. "Don't worry. After all, I am Huxley's clansman. I will not mistreat my own people. Moreover, as the Taoist companion of the Sorcerer God Holy City's leader, I have a say in the Sorcerer God Holy City." Lu Yingying said calmly, "Aunt, what we said is true. Disciple really saved us. He is Huxley's benefactor. If it were not for him, we would not have survived." Shan Lingyun said anxiously. Sa Mei, Tuo Sheng, and the others also spoke up for Zhuowen. Lu Yingying smiled. "Lingyun, the Sorcerer God Holy City is not the Sorcerer God Holy City. That is the Sorcerer God Holy City. It is basically impossible for non-members of the Sorcerer God Holy City to enter. I spent a lot of effort to get the Sorcerer God Holy City's leader to accept you. If there are other people now, I am afraid that the Sorcerer God Holy City's leader will not agree. Moreover, if you want to meet in the future, you can meet in the Sorcerer God Holy City. There are no restrictions." Zhuowen also stepped forward and rubbed Shan Lingyun's head gently. He smiled and said, "Senior Lu is right. After all, this is not Huxley. When you go back, you have to listen to Senior Lu. She will definitely protect you." Shan Lingyun curled her lips, and her big watery eyes had already turned red. Her eyes were already filled with a hazy mist. My disciple, you have to wait for me. I still want to go to the Nuwa realm with you. You can't go alone. Otherwise, I will not forgive you." Shan Lingyun's eyes were red. She waved her little fist at Zhuowen and said fiercely, "Ha ha, I can't go against my master's orders. I dare not go alone." Zhuowen said with a smile. Zhuowen then said goodbye to Sa Mei, Tuo Sheng, and the others. They then followed Lu Yingying and left the Sorcerer God Holy City. "Hee, I thought you were going to follow us to the Sorcerer God Holy City. Now, it seems like I was thinking too much." In the inn, a man in a black robe walked to Zhuowen's side. He looked at the backs of Shan Lingyun and the others and said in a low and hoarse voice, "Brother Duan, it's time to do our business. How's the information gathering going?" Zhuowen asked calmly. "It's almost done. Just now, the little girl said that you killed Psycho Hongfei. Is that true?" Duan Jipeng asked curiously. "Do you think it's true or not?" Zhuowen asked. Duan Jipeng shrugged and said, "How would I know?" After all, you are only at the middle stage of the ancient star transformation realm. It's a little exaggerated to say that you killed an elite who had undergone the great tribulation of universe. Zhuowen smiled and did not explain. He said, "Let's plan for the upcoming battle in the tomb in these few days. We can only win this trip." Lu Yingying returned to the Sorcerer God, Holy City. After settling Shan Lingyun and the others down, she went to the Sorcerer God Grand Hall. In the Sorcerer God Grand Hall stood a tall and sturdy figure. He was the current leader of the Sorcerer God clan, Emo Liuhua. "Husband," Lu Yingying bowed deeply to the figure and said respectfully. Emo Liuhua slowly turned around. He was wearing a golden silk robe and had long dark red hair. Although he looked to be over 50 years old, he had an imposing aura. "Yingying, I will only tolerate your stubbornness this time. After settling down Huxley's people, you have to watch over them at all times. They are not allowed to wander around the Sorcerer God, Holy City. If I find out that Huxley's people are not allowed to go where they should go, don't blame me for being merciless." Emo Liuhua looked at Lu Yingying and said in a deep voice, Chapter 41:17. In the following period of time, Zhuowen basically stayed in the inn to cultivate, while Duan Jipeng was basically not in the inn. Instead, he was preparing for the Battle of the Tomb. Time gradually passed, and half a month quietly passed. Finally, on this day, Duan Jipeng knocked on Zhuowen's door. "Brother Zhua, the specific location of the tomb of the Cosmic Dharma Powerhouse has finally been found." As soon as he entered the door, Duan Jipeng excitedly said to Zhuowen without beating around the bush. Zhuowen was excited. He lowered his voice and asked, "Brother Duan, where is the tomb?" Duan Jipeng took out a jade slip and handed it to Zhuowen. He whispered, "The specific location of the tomb is in this jade slip. I spent a lot of money to get it from a friend in the Sorcerer God City. There's no doubt about it. You got the news from the Sorcerer God City? That means..." Zhuowen frowned. "You guessed right. The first to know about the tomb of the Cosmic Dharma Powerhouse was the Sorcerer God clan. Originally, the Sorcerer God clan planned to monopolize the tomb of the Cosmic Dharma Powerhouse, but they didn't expect that the news of the tomb would suddenly be exposed. There are many realms around the Sorcerer God realm, and even some geniuses on the Outer Realm Heavenly List who are also interested in this matter. That's why the Sorcerer God City is so lively." Duan Jipeng smiled faintly. "Then, how many people know the specific location of the tomb of the Cosmic Dharma Powerhouse?" Zhuowen had a bad feeling. Since Duan Jipeng could get the specific location, it was obvious that other powerhouses in the Great Carefree Realm could also get it. There should be a lot. After all, I'm just a rogue cultivator. Some of the real big forces have corresponding channels to get this information. The competition this time is definitely not small. You have to be careful," Duan Jipeng said with a serious expression. In fact, he was still a little worried about Zhuowen. After all, Zhuowen's cultivation was a little low. This battle for the tomb was bound to have experts in the great calamity of heaven and earth. If Zhuowen encountered such an opponent, he would be in danger. Zhuowen smiled faintly and did not say anything. Although his cultivation was only at the middle stage of the ancient star transformation realm, his strength was definitely not weak. In addition, his array Dao had just broken through to the first firmament of the eternal grade. Ordinary universe tribulation experts might not be able to take him down. Let's go to the tomb first," Duan Jipeng suggested. Zhuowen nodded. The two of them left the inn and quickly left Sorcerer God City. According to the reliable information Duan Jipeng had obtained, the grave was located at a place called Snow Flame Valley, tens of billions of kilometers north of Sorcerer God City. The Snow Flame Valley was an extremely famous perilous place in the magical domain. It was extremely dangerous. It was said that any cultivator below the great carefree realm would die without a doubt if they entered. When Zhuowen and Duan Jiping arrived at a wide-open space in the outskirts of the Snowflame Valley, they were shocked to discover that many people had already gathered there. Moreover, these people had set up their immortal mansions in the open space. It seemed that they intended to stay here. What made Zhuowen's expression even more solemn was that the group of people in the open space all had extremely powerful auras. Many of them were even great carefree realm cultivators. Even the weakest among them was at the ancient star transformation realm. How dare a junior of the ancient star transformation realm be so presumptuous? Do you want to die? Suddenly, in the middle of the open space, an unfriendly shout attracted the attention of everyone present. Zhuowen and Duan Jiping were also attracted by the shout and couldn't help but look over there. In front of an immortal mansion in the middle of the open space, a purple-haired youth stood quietly staring indifferently at a white-haired old man standing in the immortal mansion. The purple-haired youth was extremely beautiful. His skin was even fairer and smoother than most female cultivators. If it weren't for his prominent Adam's apple, it would be easy to mistake him for a guy dressed up as a man. Just now, the owner of the loud shout was the old man standing in the immortal mansion. At this moment, the old man stared at the purple-haired youth with an extremely unfriendly gaze. The aura on his body was like an abyss, rolling down and crushing down, causing the surrounding pressure to suddenly skyrocket. The cultivators who had gathered in the surroundings all fled far away with fear in their eyes, not daring to approach. It's the Black Bamboo Old Man. This is a big shot in the early stage of the universe Great Tribulation. I didn't expect him to come too. Old Man Black Bamboo was a rogue cultivator who did not belong to any sect. His actions were the most shameless and unreasonable. He was also a vengeful person. Even many of the realm guardians of the lower realms were not willing to become enemies with Old Man Black Bamboo. What is the background of this young man? Looking at his aura, he is only at the peak of the ancient star transformation realm. He actually dares to provoke the Black Bamboo Old Man. Isn't that courting death? Many of the people present recognized the identity of the Black Bamboo Old Man. Therefore, they looked at the purple-haired youth with some pity. Zhuowen took another look at the purple-haired youth. It was not because of the youth's excessively beautiful face, but because of the youth's calm expression. This expression was as if he did not place the Black Bamboo Old Man in front of him in his eyes at all. Old Man Black Bamboo, I've said it before. I've taken a fancy to your position. It's not too late for you to scram now. Otherwise, you might not even have the chance to scram later. Just when everyone thought that the purple-haired youth would kneel down and beg for mercy from the Black Bamboo Old Man, the purple-haired youth finally spoke. However, the words that he said caused everyone to be charred on the outside and tender on the inside. Could it be that this youth has gone crazy? You're just an ancient star transformation trash. What right do you have to say such shameless words to an expert of the universe Great Tribulation? This was not only what everyone thought, but also what the Black Bamboo Old Man thought. Little bastard, you're courting death. The Black Bamboo Old Man was so angry that he trembled. He reached out his right hand into the air and then ruthlessly pressed down on Zhuowen. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying divine power condensed in the air and transformed into a huge illusory mountain that blasted towards the purple-haired youth. The Black Bamboo Old Man's eyes were filled with contempt. After all, he was an expert of the universe Great Tribulation. It was naturally impossible for him to use his full strength against a mere peak ancient star transformation cultivator. In his opinion, a casual strike was enough to destroy the youth before him. However, the black bamboo old man did not see the mocking smile on the purple-haired youth's face. Suddenly, the purple-haired youth drew the long sword at his waist and quickly slashed out. A purple sword light shot out like a waterfall. It turned into a purple river and slammed into the illusory mountain. Then, under everyone's shocked gazes, the illusory mountain was annihilated by the purple sword light. The moment the illusory mountain was annihilated, the purple-haired youth took a step forward and shot out like lightning. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the black bamboo old man. Before anyone could react, the purple-haired youth had already brushed past the black bamboo old man Clang. The purple-haired youth slowly sheathed his long sword and revealed a trace of an evil smile. Chapter 41:18. What a fast and sharp sword. Zhuowen looked at the purple-haired youth's back, and his eyes became extremely serious. At that moment, he actually couldn't see the purple-haired youth's figure clearly. He could only vaguely see a little bit of afterimage. It should be known that Zhuowen's divine sense was much stronger than that of an ancient star transformation cultivator. Even many early-stage Qianquan tribulation cultivators' divine senses were not necessarily as sharp as his. But he couldn't see the purple-haired youth's movements clearly. This meant that the purple-haired youth's speed was far beyond Zhuowen's expectations. Zhuowen looked at the purple-haired youth's long sword that was already sheathed at his waist. If he didn't sense it wrong, this long sword should be a very powerful astral weapon. There was an uproar in the open space. Everyone looked at the purple-haired youth in disbelief. A mere ancient star transformation cultivator actually cut off the arms of a Qianquan tribulation cultivator. This was too unbelievable. Black bamboo old man's face was pale. He stared at the purple-haired youth's back and asked in a trembling voice, "You? Who are you?" "Old man, don't think that you're invincible just because you've entered the great carefree realm. In my eyes, trash from a low-level world, like you don't know the true meaning of the great carefree realm. Even if you use all your strength, I can still defeat you and even kill you." The purple-haired youth slowly turned around. The evil smile on his lips grew wider. He continued, "Right, my name is Ziyu." The moment they heard Ziyu's name, most of the cultivators in the open space exclaimed in surprise. "Ziyu? Could it be Ziyu, who is ranked 5th on the Outer Realm Celestial list? I didn't expect that this existence would also come here to compete for the tomb of a cosmic Dharma cultivator. The tomb of a cosmic Dharma cultivator is really attractive. Even Ziyu is here. I'm afraid that many geniuses on the Outer Realm Celestial list are here." Black bamboo old man trembled. He didn't expect that the person he randomly met would be ranked 5th on the Outer Realm Celestial list. One had to know that the top 10 of the Outer Realm heavenly ranking had records of killing powerhouses in the universe calamity. All of them were extremely terrifying geniuses. This Ziyu was ranked 5th on the Outer Realm Celestial list. Her strength was definitely above Black Bamboo Lousy's. It was not impossible for her to kill him. What made Black Bamboo even more afraid was the huge power behind Ziyu. The geniuses on the Outer Realm Heaven leaderboard were basically all nurtured by the true major forces of the Outer Realm 100 domains. Each of them had a strong background. Ziyu came from one of the super domains, the Xiling domain. The power behind it was enormous and was not something that the Black Bamboo old man could afford to offend. "Now, do you still think I'm courting death?" Ziyu said slowly. Plop. Heizhu simply knelt on the ground and constantly kowtowed to Ziyu, begging her not to pursue him. Ziyu waved her hand and said coldly, "Get up. I'm only interested in your position. I don't want to kill you. Now scram." black bamboo, Lousy breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly scrammed. He didn't even dare to take back his immortal residence. Ziyu didn't feel any guilt at all. She openly stayed in black bamboo, Lousy's immortal residence, leaving the surrounding people staring at each other. As expected of a genius on the outer realm heavenly ranking, she has such terrifying battle strength at the ancient star transformation. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Duan Jipeng stood beside Zhuowen and was full of emotion. Zhuowen also nodded in agreement. Ziyu's strength was absolutely top-notch. Even if it was Zhuowen, he might still have the strength to fight against Ziyu if he had to use all his trump cards. Otherwise, he really wouldn't be Ziyu's opponent. Is a super domain really so powerful? The juniors that they nurture are actually so terrifying. Zhuowen muttered to himself from the discussions of the surrounding people. He also knew that Ziyu came from a super domain. If it was a lower domain like the Hushu domain or the Wu God domain, they definitely wouldn't be able to produce a monstrous genius like Ziyu. However, the Xiling domain was able to nurture one. It could be seen how powerful and terrifying a super domain was. The higher the level of a domain, the stronger its foundation, and the more outstanding its people are. And the younger generation cultivated by the invincible domain and the archaic Heavenly Tao Academy are even more terrifying. It's just that the younger generation of the invincible domain and the archaic Heavenly Tao Academy are more low-key. They have never competed for the outer realm heavenly ranking. Therefore, there are no young cultivators from the invincible domain and the archaic Heavenly Tao Academy on the outer realm heavenly ranking. If they want to compete, the rankings on the outer realm heavenly ranking will probably change dramatically, Duan Jipeng said in a low voice. Ziyu, how awe-inspiring. You repelled an expert at the initial stage of the universe tribulation as soon as you arrived. This is really like your style. You pick the weak ones when picking bones. A slightly mocking voice sounded out from afar. Everyone looked over and saw a young man wearing a mask. He stepped through the air and slowly landed beside Ziyu's immortal mansion. Suzhou, I didn't expect you to come too. Ziyu walked out of the immortal mansion and looked at the masked young man with fear. Suzhou? Could it be Suzhou, who is ranked 4th on the outer realm heavenly ranking? He is a genius more powerful than Ziyu. I didn't expect even him to come. This is really unexpected. When Ziyu called out the masked young man's name, there was another uproar in the open space. Suzhou smiled gently. Aren't you going to invite me in to have a seat when you see an old friend? Ziyu narrowed her eyes and smiled. Brother Suzhou, please follow me into the house. After Suzhou and Ziyu entered the immortal mansion, the surrounding uproar not only didn't lessen, but became even more serious. Brother Zhua, the 2 friends I made an appointment with have arrived. Come with me to meet them. We have more people in this battle for the tomb. We can take care of each other and greatly reduce the risk, Duan Jipeng suddenly said to Zhuowen. Zhuowen thought for a moment and nodded. Thus, the 2 of them quietly left the open space. In a dense bamboo forest about 7 or 8 kilometers away from the open space, 2 figures had been waiting there for a long time. These 2 figures were a man and a woman. The man didn't look old, about 30 years old. He was dressed in a gray robe and looked very capable and energetic. The woman was exceptionally enchanting and charming. Her pair of narrow phoenix eyes were exceptionally seductive. What was even rarer was that the aura of this man and woman was extremely vast. Although it was slightly inferior to Duan Jipeng's, it wasn't too far off. They were probably late-stage experts of the Qiankuan Great Tribulation. When Duan Jipeng and Zhuowen arrived at the bamboo forest, the man and woman greeted them with a smile. Chapter 41:19. Brother Lin, sister-in-law, it's been a while. Duan Jipeng cupped his hands politely. Zhuowen silently looked at the man and woman in front of him. Duan Jipeng had already introduced them to Zhuowen on the way here. The man and woman were a pair of Taoist companions from the intermediate realm, the water and fire heroes. The man was called Lin Long, and the woman was called Ling Long. The two of them were good at teamwork, although their cultivation was not as good as Duan Jipeng's. If they joined forces, even Duan Jipeng might not be able to take them down. Brother Duan, you're too polite. Didn't you say that there are 4 of us this time? Where's the other fellow? Lin Long asked politely. Duan Jipeng smiled a little embarrassedly and said, I forgot to introduce the 2 of you. This person beside me is called Zhu Wen, a friend of mine, who has gone through life and death together. He's the 4th person to enter the tomb this time. Lin Long and Ling Long finally looked at Zhuowen with a strange look in their eyes. Just now, when Zhuowen was with Duan Jipeng, they did not pay much attention to him. After all, Zhuowen's aura was too weak. He was only at the middle stage of the ancient star transformation. In their opinion, the 4th person invited by Duan Jipeng should at least be an expert of the universe tribulation. Who would have thought that it was just a little guy at the ancient star transformation? Brother Duan, it's not that I look down on your friend, but your friend's cultivation is too weak. After entering the tomb, are you sure he can protect himself? We don't want to have to worry about our safety while exploring the tomb. And the safety of our teammates. Lin Long frowned and said in a deep voice. Zhuowen's eyes were calm, but he was sneering in his heart. Lin Long obviously thought that he would be a burden. Duan Jipeng said seriously, Brother Lin, I've said it before. Brother Zhua is my friend. This time, I must bring him into the tomb. If you don't agree, then our agreement may be invalid. Lin Long and Ling Long looked at each other and hesitated. The battle for the tomb this time was full of danger. There were many strong cultivators. Although the 2 of them were strong, they were still a little weak. That was why they joined forces with Duan Jipeng. If Duan Jipeng withdrew because of this, it would be a huge loss to them. How about this? He'll be entering the tomb with us, but you'll have to be responsible for his safety. Brother Duan, my wife and I won't be responsible for that. Lin Long said in a deep voice. Although Duan Jipeng was unhappy, he knew that it was unrealistic to ask Lin Long and Ling Long to protect Zhuowen, so he could only nod in agreement. Brother Duan, don't worry. After entering the tomb, I have no problem protecting myself. Zhuowen patted Duan Jipeng's shoulder and laughed. Duan Jipeng smiled bitterly. He obviously took Zhuowen's words as a form of consolation and did not take them to heart. Lin Long and his wife, on the other hand, had undisguised sneers on their faces. They were rather disdainful of Zhuowen's words. After the 2 sides reached an agreement, they came to the open space outside the Snow Flame Valley. In order not to attract attention, the 4 of them set up a simple immortal residence in the corner of the open space and stayed there temporarily. As time passed, more and more cultivators came to the open space outside the Snow Flame Valley. There was no lack of strong cultivators from the Great Qiankuan Tribulation. In addition, there were many geniuses from the Outer Realm Heavenly List, such as Fu Di, who was ranked 10th, Shun En, who was ranked 15th, and Zhao Qiani, who was ranked 20th. There were more than 10 geniuses from the Outer Realm Heavenly List who came this time. Among them, there were 3 in the top 10, 2 in the top 20, and the rest were not in the top 20. None of them could be underestimated. In addition, there were many protectors from the outer realm. Of course, these protectors were from the lower realms. Naturally, the true masters of the intermediate and advanced domains would not be interested in this tomb of a cosmic Dharma adept. What surprised Juoan even more was that the Nuwa clan had also come. However, the people from the Nuwa clan who came this time were not the strong cultivators of the Nuwa clan, but the younger generation of the Nuwa clan. The leader of the Nuwa clan team was a genius who was ranked 72nd on the Outer Realm Heavenly List. His name was Lai Rong. Lai Rong was a young man who looked no more than 20 years old. His face was handsome and as gentle as jade. From afar, he looked more like a gentleman. In addition, the team that Lai Rong brought was basically made up of the younger generation of the Nuwa clan. The only thing that caught Juoan's attention was the middle-aged man beside Lai Rong. From the aura of the middle-aged man, his cultivation was probably not much weaker than Duan Jipeng's. Obviously, Lai Rong's status in the Nuwa clan was not low. He even had a strong cultivator at the peak of the great Qian Kuan tribulation protecting him. Hee. Nuwa clan, I've been pursued so miserably all these years. It's time for the Nuwa clan to pay a price. When Lai Rong and the others arrived at the periphery of the Snowflame Valley, Duan Jipeng walked out of the immortal abode like a cat that had smelled blood. He looked coldly at Lai Rong and the others. Brother Zhua, if there's a chance, I must kill these people from the Nuwa clan. Can you hold Lai Rong back? Duan Jipeng suddenly looked at Juoan cautiously and asked. Juoan did not speak. Instead, he flipped his right hand. Instantly, lines of formation patterns appeared in his palm. With Juoan's current level of formation skills, he had long surpassed the level of relying on formation discs to set up formations. He had already reached the level where he could condense extremely powerful formation patterns at will. What a powerful formation power. This is Brother Zhua, so you're a half-step eternal level formation god master. Duan Jipeng was overjoyed. Juoan put away the formation patterns in his palm. These half-step eternal level formation patterns were casually set up by Juoan. Duan Jipeng did not know much about formation god masters. After all, it was impossible for a half-step eternal level formation god master to set up half-step eternal level formation patterns at will. Only a true eternal level formation god master could do that. Of course, Juoan did not deliberately explain. With Brother Zhua's help, this Nuwa clan team will not be able to escape. Duan Jipeng was in a good mood and was quite excited. In the next few days, the Snowflame Valley had not been completely opened. The number of cultivators in the open space increased, and the excess territory decreased. Chapter 41:20. Soon, the silence of the Snowflame Valley was completely broken by the arrival of a team. This team was from the Witchcraft God clan. The leaders were the clan leader of the Witchcraft God clan, Mo Liuhua, and the domain guardian, Mo Fayu. No one expected that the only two great carefree realm experts of the Witchcraft God domain would come. It was clear that the Witchcraft God clan attached great importance to this battle for the tomb. Clan leader Mo, we've been waiting here for so long. I think it's time for you to open the Snowflame Valley. After the Witchcraft God clan team arrived, a green-robed elder slowly walked out of his immortal abode and spoke slowly. His voice was as loud as a bell, spreading throughout the Snowflame Valley. The green-robed elder's aura was extremely vast, not much weaker than Duan Jipeng's. Clearly, he was also an expert at the peak of the Cosmos Tribulation. After the green-robed elder spoke, the experts of the Cosmos Tribulation all walked out of their respective immortal abodes and looked at the Witchcraft God clan team with unfriendly eyes. The entrance to the Snowflame Valley had always been mysterious. Even most of the practitioners of the Witchcraft God domain found it difficult to find the real entrance. The Snowflame Valley was surrounded by an extremely powerful natural restriction. It was said that the restriction had reached the eternal level. Even an expert of the great carefree realm might not be able to find it in a short time. The entrance. Most of the practitioners of the witchcraft god domain knew that although the entrance to the natural restriction was mysterious, it had always been in the hands of the higher-ups of the witchcraft god clan. As long as the witchcraft god clan was willing to open the real entrance to the Snow Flame Valley, they could all enter the Snow Flame Valley. Of course, although the natural restriction was powerful, there was no lack of experts of the cosmos tribulation here. If they could overcome all difficulties and join forces, even the natural restriction could be destroyed by force. However, they did not take action for a long time. Firstly, it was because these people came from various forces and their hearts were not united. Secondly, they were worried that if they forcefully destroyed the natural restriction, it might destroy the Snow Flame Valley and affect the birth of the Snow Flame Valley. The tomb of the cosmic Dharma experts. Everyone understood that they had gathered outside the Snow Flame Valley these days mainly to wait for the people of the witchcraft god domain to arrive. As long as the people of the witchcraft god domain were willing to open the Snow Flame Valley, it would naturally be a happy ending. All eyes fell on Emo Liohua and Emo Fayu, who were at the front of the witchcraft god clan team. They knew that the right to make the decision now. Emo Liohua and Emo Fingyo's faces turned extremely grave. They naturally understood the stakes involved. If they could not give a satisfactory answer, the experts gathered here would likely gang up on them. Everyone, we can understand your feelings. We will naturally open the Snow Flame Valley. Emo Liohua said in a low voice, Valley, 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 because Liohua, you cosmos, God domain. Valley, 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 Valley. Whoa, Valley, 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 God, Valley, God. Valley, 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 Valleys, Valley. Valley, 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 God domain, God domain. Liohua, oh, God Valley, Valley. As long as you are willing to open up the Snow Flame Valley, as long as your request is not too excessive, we will naturally agree. The green-robed elder who spoke at the beginning replied. On the empty ground, everyone gently nodded their heads, agreeing with the green-robed elder's words. The tomb of a cosmic Dharma expert is about to be born in the Snow Flame Valley. I think everyone knows about this. Our request is not too much. If the witchcraft god clan can enter the deepest part of the tomb, we ask to be the first to choose. We can choose a treasure. The rest of the treasures will depend on our own ability. How about that? Emo Liohua said, indifferently. Everyone was in an uproar when they heard this. In their opinion, Emo Liohua's request was a little too much. Of course, this was for the cosmic tribulation experts. For most ancient star transformation cultivators, it did not affect them. After all, they were only ancient star transformation cultivators and could not compete with the cosmic tribulation experts. Therefore, they could only pick up the treasures outside the tomb. If you don't agree, the witchcraft god clan has a backbone. Even if both sides suffer losses, we will not easily compromise. Emo Liohua said in a low voice. Faced with Emo Liohua's rather unyielding attitude, everyone frowned without leaving a trace. The green-robed elder thought for a while and said calmly, there is a premise. There must be at least 3 treasures in the deepest part of the tomb. We can allow the sorcerer clan to have the priority to choose one. After the green-robed elder made this suggestion, no one present objected. Obviously, they all agreed with this suggestion. Okay, Emo Liohua nodded. Since we have reached an agreement, clan leader Emo, why don't you open the Snow Flame Valley? Ziyu said impatiently. Next, Emo Liohua and Mo Fengyu looked at each other. They each took out a jade token and came to a remote cliff in the Snow Flame Valley. The two of them formed hand seals and sent waves of divine power into their respective jade tokens. The dense and complicated patterns on the jade tokens began to light up and then turned into two snakes of light. They quickly intertwined and rushed into the Snow Flame Valley. After about 10 breaths of time, a beam of light shot out of the Snow Flame Valley. It pierced the clouds and pierced the sky. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, the beam of light actually bent downwards, landing on the cliff where Emo Liuhua and the others were. This beam of light is the passageway into the Snow Flame Valley. Everyone, our witchcraft god clan, will go first. Emo Liuhua casually explained, and led the witchcraft god clan team into the Snow Flame Valley through the beam of light. This Emo Liuhua is really cunning. He took advantage of the fact that we are not familiar with the entrance and rushed into the Snow Flame Valley first. Duan Jipeng could not help but curse. Many cultivators in the open space were also rather dissatisfied. However, after their dissatisfaction, their eyes were filled with intense passion. The Snow Flame Valley is finally open. Let's rush in. After a short delay, everyone in the open space rushed into the beam of light and was sent into the Snow Flame Valley by the power of the beam of light. Even the experts of the great calamity of heaven and earth were unwilling to fall behind and rushed in at the first moment. Brother Zhua, Brother Lin, and Miss Linglong, let's go in too. Remember, we should be together at all times. Don't fall behind. Duan Jipeng said to Zhuowen and the other two in a low voice. Lin Long and his wife looked at Zhuowen disdainfully and nodded cautiously at Duan Jipeng. Chapter 41:21. Is this the Snow Flame Valley? Zhuowen stood on a huge rock and looked around. He realized that he was surrounded by a vast valley that seemed to have no end. He could only vaguely see the silhouettes of mountains in the distance. What was even more bizarre was that snowflakes were falling down from the sky in this gigantic valley. Zhuowen reached out his right hand and caught a snowflake. He was surprised to find that these snowflakes were white flames about the size of a fingernail. However, these white flames did not have any temperature. Instead, they were filled with extreme coldness, the kind that went deep into one's bones. This is called the snow flame flower. It's a type of cold flame. The Snow Flame Valley got its name because of this snow flame flower. These strange snow flame flowers fall here all year round. As for the specific reason, no one knows. When Duan Jipeng saw Zhuowen's astonished expression, he patiently explained, Brother Duan, let's stop here. We didn't enter the Snow Flame Valley to talk to some people, but to find the tomb of the universe's Dharma power that is about to be born. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go deeper into the Snow Flame Valley. Linlong said unhappily. Duan Jipeng frowned. He did not like Linlong's attitude. He wanted to explain that Zhuowen was also a powerful formation master, but he was stopped by Zhuowen. Brother Duan, let's go deeper into the Snow Flame Valley. Zhuowen said lightly. Duan Jipeng could only give up. He then led the three of them into the depths of the Snow Flame Valley. In the Snow Flame Valley, other than the snow flame flowers that bloomed all year round, there were also many powerful strange beasts. Due to the special characteristics of the snow flame flowers, evil spirits, ghosts, and other non-existent evil creatures were unable to survive in such an environment. Therefore, in the Snow Flame Valley, Zhuowen had not met any evil spirits or ghosts. Boom! An ape covered in golden scales fell heavily to the ground, lifeless. Linlong slowly put away his long spear. A cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth as he said indifferently, The strange beasts in this Snow Flame Valley are quite strong. I can't believe I encountered a big guy at the half-step carefree realm. As he spoke, Lin Long looked at Zhuowen, who was standing at the side and had yet to make a move. He continued, "Little brother Zhuo, it's a good thing that you followed us. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to come so deep into the Snow Flame Valley alone." Ling Long covered her mouth and giggled. "Husband, you're so naughty. You clearly know that little brother Zhuo's strength is lacking. How could he possibly be a match for this giant golden-striped ape? All right, we're almost at the deepest part of the Snowflame Valley. There might still be cosmos beasts here. Everyone, be careful." Duan Jipeng said coldly. Lin Long's eyes were blazing as he said, "This also means that we are closer to the tomb. I just don't know when the tomb of the cosmic Dharma adept will appear. We only need to wait in the deepest part of the Snow Flame Valley. Once the tomb appears, we can immediately enter." Ling Long giggled. Suddenly, a violent tremor came from the depths of the Snow Flame Valley. It was as if a large group of things were rapidly rushing out from the depths. "This is—" Duan Jipeng's eyes were filled with confusion. "Quick, hide in the cave on the left cliff. It's a group of beasts." Zhuowen's expression suddenly changed. He shouted sternly and pulled Duan Jipeng into the cave on the side. His consciousness had a wide range and was extremely sensitive. Before Duan Jipeng and the others could react, he had already detected the source of the tremor in the distance. It was a dense group of beasts. Like an unstoppable wave, they were rapidly rushing over. Under Wen's investigation, there was no lack of terrifying cosmos beasts with the aura of the universe tribulation within this beast tide. In the face of such a group of beasts, even the four of them would be trampled into meat paste if they did not temporarily hide. "Humph! What nonsense are you talking about? It's just an ordinary earthquake. Within the range of my consciousness, I didn't detect any cosmos beasts. You're just an ancient star transformation guy. Do you think your consciousness is stronger than mine?" Lin Long snorted coldly. It was Zhuowen's suggestion. "Brother Lin, whether it's true or not, it's best that we hide here and wait for the changes." Duan Jipeng advised. Lin Long shook his head and said, "In any case, I'm an expert of the Qian Kuan tribulation. So how could I possibly listen to a piece of ancient star transformation trash? Wouldn't that make me as trash as him?" Duan Jipeng was furious. This Lin Long really looked down on Zhuowen and did not give him any face at all. This made Duan Jipeng very unhappy. "Husband, it seems like it's really a group of beasts." While Lin Long and Duan Jipeng were talking, Ling Long, who was standing next to Lin Long, turned pale and hurriedly shook Lin Long's arm. Lin Long came back to his senses and spread out his consciousness. He finally discovered a group of beasts that were rapidly rushing over. This group of beasts was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they rushed in front of them and trampled on them. Judging from the reactions of these beasts, they were not targeting Lin Long and Ling Long. Instead, they were fleeing in panic. "Damn it, let's retreat." Lin Long summoned his powerful divine power and joined forces with Ling Long to repel part of the group of beasts. They planned to escape to the cave, where Zhuowen and Duan Jipeng were. However, there were simply too many beasts. Under the encirclement of the beasts, their speed was very slow. It could be described as difficult to move forward. Roar! Just as they were slowly approaching the cave, two beasts of universal calamity immediately discovered Lin Long and Ling Long. With a loud roar, they suddenly rushed out and launched a fierce attack on the couple. Lin Long and Ling Long were already having a hard time because they were in the middle of the group of beasts. Now that they were being attacked by two beasts of universal calamity, they were immediately in imminent danger. "Damn it, we can't hold back anymore. Attack with all our might." Lin Long's expression was ugly. he immediately released his universal world. Ling Long naturally cooperated with Lin Long. The two Qian Kuan worlds overlapped, erupting with an extremely terrifying power. The two beasts of universal calamity were also extremely extraordinary. They each released their own universal worlds and fiercely collided with Lin Long and Ling Long. The terrifying shock waves from the battle spread out in all directions like ocean waves. Many of the weaker exotic beasts were directly annihilated into dust. However, the beast horde continued to charge forward one after another. Almost all of them were not afraid of death. As for Lin Long and Ling Long, they were completely stalled by the two beasts of universal calamity. They could not escape at all. Brother Zhua, this group of beasts is a little strange. Look at these beasts. They are all panicking and running away as if they are afraid of something. Duan Jipeng observed the group of beasts around them and said in a low voice. Zhuowen nodded in agreement. He glanced at the depths of Snowflame Valley. He had a feeling that something was about to be born in the depths. Chapter 41:22. Brother Duan, save us. While Zhuowen and Duan Jipeng were talking, Lin Long and his wife, who were already in a precarious situation, could no longer hold on due to the addition of the third universal calamity beast. They threw their dignity aside and began to call for Duan Jipeng's help. Duan Jipeng frowned slightly. He did not like what Lin Long had done, but these two were his companions after all. He could not just leave them in the lurch. Just as Duan Jipeng was about to help, Zhuowen pulled him back. Brother Duan, this beast tide is too terrifying. Even if you go out, I'm afraid not only will you not be able to save Lin Long and his wife, but you'll also lose your life. Zhuowen said calmly. Duan Jipeng's heart trembled. He silently looked at the terrifying beast tide outside and fell silent. Zhuowen was right. Although he was strong, this beast tide was too large. If he really got trapped, he was not confident that he could escape unscathed, let alone save Lin Long and his wife. Zhuowen, what are you trying to do? Lin Long and his wife were busy dealing with the attacks of the three universal calamity beasts, but they had been paying attention to Zhuowen and Duan Jipeng. Naturally, they heard the conversation between the two. Their expressions changed drastically, and they were extremely dissatisfied with Zhuowen. Duan Jipeng showed a trace of pity. He smiled bitterly and said, Brother Zhua, I've implicated you this time. I wanted to bring you along for an opportunity, but I didn't expect. Moreover, Lin Long and his wife are my companions. I can't leave them alone. Brother Zhua, just hide here and don't move. Nothing can happen, so don't come out. Just wait for the beast tide to pass, and then leave. I'll go save him first. Brothers. After saying that, Duan Jipeng stood up with a determined look in his eyes. Zhuowen shrugged. Although he was not very fond of Lin Long and his wife, he could not watch Duan Jipeng fall into danger alone. Brother Duan, I have a way to save them. Zhuowen suddenly said, You have a way? What is it? Duan Jipeng looked at Zhuowen rather excitedly. After Zhuowen discovered the beast tide in advance, Duan Jipeng realized that the young man in front of him was definitely not simple. He was probably more powerful than he had imagined. Therefore, when Zhuowen said he had a way, Duan Jipeng's first reaction, not only did he not believe him, but he was excited. Lin Long and his wife, who were still fighting the three beasts, and their expressions, who were still fighting the three beasts were fighting. They naturally did not believe Jipeng's opinions right. They were, and Jipeng to Jipeng. Where Jipeng had Jipeng's now. They would, even if he himself would die to save them to help himself. Them would be ins to would die to die died. To help. He would be. Them. The three, they're theirs. At this moment, in the cave, under Duan Jipeng's excited gaze, Zhuowen slowly took out 3 array discs. These are the teleportation arrays I set up temporarily. I set the teleportation location in this cave. As long as you can get close to Lin Long and his wife and hand them the array discs, you'll be able to escape. Zhuowen said in a deep voice, "Temporary teleportation array? It's easy to interfere with. With the 3 Cosmos Tribulation exotic beasts around, I'm afraid this temporary teleportation array won't be of any use at all." Duan Jipeng said, with a frown. Zhuowen said with a faint smile, "You're talking about an ordinary temporary teleportation array. This array disk also contains a first firmament of eternal level defensive restriction. It's enough to buy you enough time to teleport." Duan Jipeng's pupils shrank. A first firmament of eternal level defensive restriction? This was a priceless item. Even if it was him, it would still be difficult for him to purchase such a large array. However, Zhuowen had casually taken out 3 array discs containing such a high level of restriction. He even suspected that Zhuowen was bragging, but after seeing Zhuowen's serious eyes, Duan Jipeng nodded heavily. He chose to believe in Zhuowen. "I'm sure I can get close to them. I'll go first." Duan Jipeng glanced at Zhuowen. With a stomp of his foot, a terrifying aura burst out from his body. Then, the powerful energy dissipated, forming a huge shadow of the cosmos world in the void behind him. The moment Duan Jipeng swept out, the nearby exotic beasts discovered him, but they did not take the initiative to attack. Instead, they continued to flee in panic. Although the exotic beasts did not attack Duan Jipeng, Lin Long and his wife were in the center of the beast tide. If Duan Jipeng wanted to get close to them, he would have to repel some of the beast tide. Thinking of this, Duan Jipeng's eyes revealed a trace of ruthlessness. He suddenly rushed into the beast tide. Powerful divine power erupted like an unbridled storm. Wherever Duan Jipeng passed by, the exotic beasts were sent flying in all directions, wailing in agony. Duan Jipeng's rude and unreasonable actions finally angered the exotic beasts in his vicinity. They gave up on running away one after another, and instead launched extremely fierce attacks at Duan Jipeng furiously. Duan Jipeng's face was solemn. The huge cosmos world surrounded his body. Rolling divine power burst out like a deep abyss, blocking all the exotic beasts around him. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, a terrifying collision sound was heard. Duan Jipeng groaned and was forced to stop. Then, he discovered with an ugly expression that another Cosmos Tribulation exotic beast had appeared in the beast tide. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it launched a fierce attack at him. Fortunately, this exotic beast was slightly weaker than the 3 exotic beasts that were attacking Lin Long and his wife. It was only at the early stage of the Cosmos Tribulation. Duan Jipeng snorted coldly and no longer held back. He opened his right hand, and the endless tribulation energy in the cosmos world was seized by him, transforming it into a large divine spear that was several meters long. Duan Jipeng held the divine spear and took a step forward. He arrived in front of the exotic beast and swept out his right hand, smashing heavily onto the exotic beast's body. Crackle! A rather horrifying sound rang out. The exotic beast let out a miserable cry and was blasted flying. Its entire body was enveloped by the tribulation energy, and it constantly twitched. On the other hand, Duan Jipeng's footsteps did not stop. He was like a god that had descended to the mortal world. He constantly blasted away the exotic beasts in front of him and slowly approached Lin Long and his wife. On the other hand, Lin Long and his wife were not happy. They were worried that Duan Jipeng could come in, but he might not be able to bring them out. After all, the 3 exotic beasts that were attacking them were at the late stage of the Cosmos Tribulation. The exotic beasts were eyeing them covetously. Chapter 41:23. Duan Jipeng's eyes shone with a cold light as he watched the beast approach. He raised the calamity spear with his right hand and threw it out. Swoosh! The calamity spear pierced through space and turned into a blazing stream of light that smashed into the beast. Boom! Boom! A violent explosion rang out. The world that the strange beast had manifested trembled violently under the attack of the spear of calamity. The strange beast let out a wail and was sent flying. Its body seemed to be on the verge of collapsing as blood splattered across the sky. Duan Jipeng's eyes were calm as he raised his right hand. Terrifying strength borrowed the power of the calamity of universe to separate the surrounding beast tide by hundreds of meters. Duan Jipeng charged towards Lin Long and his wife at an even faster speed. Lin Long and his wife were overjoyed when they saw Duan Jipeng cleanly finish off a late-stage Great Tribulation exotic beast. The pressure on them lessened a lot, and they gradually gained the upper hand in the battle with the two exotic beasts. When Duan Jipeng arrived beside them, they had already repelled the beast. Screech! A clear screech suddenly sounded from behind the beast tide. Then Duan Jipeng and the others were shocked to discover that a wisp of golden light was slowly rising behind them. It was rushing over at an unbelievable speed. It was a giant divine bird that burned with golden flames. When it spread its wings, they were hundreds of meters wide. In particular, the aura emitted by the divine bird was too vast and terrifying. It was like a boundless mountain was crushing down, and it was impossible to turn the situation around. A beast at the peak of the calamity of universe. How is this possible? The moment Duan Jipeng and the others saw the divine bird, their expressions changed drastically, especially when they sensed the powerful aura on its body. What terrified them even more was that after the divine bird flew out, 7 or 8 extremely powerful beasts followed closely behind and charged towards Duan Jipeng and the others. And these beasts were all at the late stage of the calamity of universe. If they were surrounded by this group of beasts, it would be basically impossible for Duan Jipeng and the others to escape. We're doomed. A beast at the peak of the calamity of universe and so many late-stage beasts. We can't deal with them at all. Ling Long said with a ghastly pale face. Screech, the divine bird, whose entire body was burning with golden flames, stared sharply at Duan Jipeng and the others below. It let out a crisp cry, and then quickly swooped down like a falling sun. The 7 or 8 terrifying beasts followed closely behind. Each of them was filled with murderous intent and was unstoppable. Quick, take this disc and activate the teleportation array on it. Duan Jipeng was shocked. He quickly took out the disc array and handed it to Lin Long and his wife. This is a temporary teleportation array disc array. Brother Duan, are you crazy? It takes a while to teleport, and that's enough time for the divine bird to kill us many times over. Lin Long said with an ugly expression, Trust me, there's still a first layer eternal grade heaven and earth defensive restriction on this disc array. It's enough to delay us until we teleport away. After he finished speaking, Ling's the teleportation array, teleportation array. Instantly, a blazing white light gushed out of the disc array and enveloped Duan Jipeng. Seeing Duan Jipeng activate the disc array, Lin Long and his wife knew that this was the only way. They gritted their teeth and activated the disc array. 3 rays of white light enveloped the 3 of them, and the surrounding space began to distort. The golden divine bird's sharp eyes became even colder. Its intelligence was not much weaker than that of human cultivators. In fact, it was even smarter. Therefore, when it saw the 3 of them activating the teleportation array disc, it knew that Duan Jipeng and the others were going to escape. Therefore, its speed soared, and it shot out like a sharp arrow. In the blink of an eye, the golden divine bird shot in front of Duan Jipeng and the others. It opened its mouth and spat out endless golden divine flames. The golden divine flame was simply too terrifying. As soon as it was shot out, it seemed as if the entire space was about to be burned into nothingness. The surrounding space cracked, and even the laws were incinerated. Lin Long and his wife's expressions changed drastically. They wanted to escape, but they were in the middle of the teleportation. If they tried to escape, they would suffer a strong backlash. Therefore, they watched helplessly as the terrifying golden divine flames swept towards them. In the blink of an eye, it was right in front of them. We're doomed. Lin Long and his wife thought to themselves. Just when they thought that they were doomed, the golden divine flames rushed towards them. However, they did not feel any heat or pain. They saw that the disk array that was suspended around them suddenly burst out with a ray of green light. It overflowed like a breeze and formed a faint green barrier around them. As for the green barrier, it was constantly surging with green energy. It felt like a withered tree coming back to life. What surprised the Linlong couple even more was that the green barrier was able to withstand the terrifying golden flames. When Duan Jipeng saw that the green barrier had blocked the golden flames, he finally let out a long sigh of relief. Although Zhuowen had said that there was a first heavenly layer, eternal level defensive restriction in the disk array, there was no proof. It was entirely because he trusted Zhuowen that he took the disk array to save them without even trying. However, when Duan Jipeng came back to his senses, his eyes became extremely shocked. This was a first heavenly layer, eternal level defensive restriction. Yet, Zhuowen took it out just like that to save someone. This was too generous. Could it be that Brother Zhua is actually an eternal level divine array master? Duan Jipeng suddenly had such an idea in his mind. The more he thought about it, the more likely it was. When Zhuowen casually arranged a half-step eternal level formation inscription, he thought that Zhuowen was just a half-step eternal level divine array master. Now it seemed that he had underestimated Zhuowen. After all, it was not just a half-step eternal level divine array master who could arrange a half-step eternal level formation inscription. An eternal level divine array master could arrange it even more easily. Duan Jipeng's heart was full of excitement. If Zhuowen was really an eternal level divine array master, not only would he not be a burden, but he might also be the most useful existence in their group. Lin Long and his wife also recognized the level of this defensive restriction. They looked at each other and revealed a look of shock. Boom, boom, boom. Seeing that the divine flames were blocked, the golden divine bird became very angry and began to attack wildly. Waves of terrifying attacks fell on the green barrier, causing extremely dense ripples to appear on the barrier. When the golden divine bird launched a fierce attack, the 7 or 8 exotic beasts that followed were not to be outdone. They all released their Qian Kuan world. Suddenly, Duan Jipeng and the other two's faces changed drastically. Under the attacks of these exotic beasts, the green barrier around them began to tremble violently, and cracks began to appear.